Chapter 1101 The Demon That Destroys the Nation. As Yanagyu Musashi's momentum surged, the boundless sword energy swept the four fields. These sword chi flattened the towering peaks, cut off the mountains, and then followed the sword chi into the sky. Suddenly, the peaks and mountains burst into flames, and the scene was extremely spectacular. Other hand, looking at Luffy, at this time, Luffy's body was constantly pouring out astonishing power. This burst of power was absolutely abnormal, and both Boss Nekomamushi and Duke Inuarashi were speechless in shock. In an instant, thunderclouds roared in the air, and the earth shook. Luffy! Usopp called out Luffy's name, but the latter didn't seem to hear it. Damn, how could it be like this? Sanji clenched his mouth tightly. At this moment, he didn't care much. He put Zoro on his back, hugged Chopper and Brook and others, and quickly stepped back. As soon as Sanji left, everyone present suddenly felt that something was about to break out of the ground under their feet. The ground is starting to vibrate in waves and the air is getting drier, hotter. In this environment, everyone quickly sweated profusely, and their backs were soaked with sweat. Oops, the volcano is about to be activated. Kinemon suddenly realized something was wrong. Activate. Kanjuro's face turned pale. If the volcano erupted, the country would be doomed. Wano Kuni is an island formed by submarine volcanic eruptions thousands of years ago. Due to a large amount of volcanic ash and various substances, it has formed a resource-rich island. However, Wano Kuni has recorded only 7 volcanic eruptions, and the most recent one, it also happened more than 1,000 years ago, so most people in Wano Kuni believe that the volcano will not erupt again. They must be stopped. If the two of them clashed and the force penetrated the Earth's crust and activated the volcano, then this country would. Duke Inuarashi also realized the crisis at this time, so he decisively ordered the retreat of the civil warriors. Let's withdraw too. Lao Kai did not hesitate, and immediately fled to the direction of the pier with the people. At this moment, the ground under Luffy's feet was already cracked, and the shattered clods were actually suspended. The scene was extremely spectacular. Influenced by Yanagyu Musashi and Luffy, the entire Wano Kuni was shrouded in black clouds at this time, as if it was the end of the day. Rubber, rubber, Thor Thunderbolt. Luffy in 4th gear, raised his right foot high, and quickly extended long his right foot, rushing directly to the cloud, and then armament hockey wrapped, covered by lightning and fire at the same time. Yanagyu Musashi and Luffy are on the left and one on the right, each charging up, wanting to kill each other with a powerful blow. All of a sudden, the confrontation between the two powers, just for a moment, the collision produced an explosion, which detonated the spatial turbulence. The entire Wano Kuni were lifted up, like a super hurricane hitting the city. People, animals, birds, insects and frogs were all involved. At this moment, Sanji and the others, who had just fled to the pier, widened their eyes. They never thought that the confrontation between Luffy and Yagayu Musashi would cause such a serious natural disaster. The 4 fields collapsed and the land fell, like a sign of doomsday. Bartolomeo used the barrier fruit to protect himself, but he was not hurt, but he was in the center of the battlefield and could feel the changes around him the most. At this moment, countless cracks appeared in the radius of dozens of miles. Inside the cracks, the red magma spurted out, accompanied by the fire, burning all over Wano Kuni. Villages, cities, palaces. All the good things of Wano Kuni were burned in the fire. However, this is only the beginning, and the worst is yet to come. Since Luffy and Yagayu Musashi erupted at the same time, the power of both sides has not been exhausted, that is to say, they are still igniting the volcano under their feet. Luffy's expression was very grim, his eyes seemed to be spewing out 2 fires, and for some reason, he always felt an endless power in his body which made him feel good now dripping, cool, to fly. Musashi looked down and saw Wano Kuni's scene, and his face paled on the spot, but Luffy had no plans to stop, and if he gave in, he would only end in defeat. However, Yagayu Musashi was distracted, and Luffy's power suddenly overwhelmed him. Yanagi Masashi's heart tightened, and he gritted his teeth again. Clap, clap. Muscles cracked, blood vessels burst instantly. After all, Yagyu Musashi is old. Although he used to be a juggernaut and is well maintained, it is a fact that his body is old. Ah! Luffy slammed down with one kick, smashing Yagyu Musashi into the ground. Boom! However, at this moment, the giant force penetrated the Earth's crust and detonated the underwater volcano. The soaring magma spurted out in an instant, and Bartolomeo caught Luffy after he had lost his strength. Wano Kuni is dead. Clap. Momonosuke fell to his knees. He didn't expect this result, and all this was not what he wanted. He just wanted to unify the countries and become emperor in Wano Kuni. But now, let alone being an emperor, it is impossible to even be a big name, because now Wano Kuni is full of boiling, hot, life-devouring magma. With this level of disaster, Wano Kuni is doomed to be wiped out. Seeing all this, Cyrus and others also felt grief in their hearts. Although this is not their homeland, but seeing the destruction of other countries, they also sincerely think of their own country. Will Dressrosa ever have such a day? Ask yourself. Everyone is silent. Luffy became famous, whether he knew it or not. The destruction of Wano Kuni had something to do with him. Although Wano Kuni is small, its total population is as high as millions. That is to say, Luffy has become a demon who killed millions of people overnight. Notoriety spreads. When Luffy woke up, Duke Inuarashi and boss Nekomamushi of the Fur Tribe had already brought people back to Zou, and Lao Kai and others had also left, leaving only Momonosuke's Kazuki army. Luffy, this is your current bounty. Chopper carefully handed the wanted notice to Luffy. Wanted was just updated yesterday, and the bounty is 6.5 billion Bailey, second only to Andre. This bounty is definitely an unprecedented high, and if it were changed before, Luffy would have jumped up excitedly. But there is such a sentence in the reward. The demon that destroys Wano Kuni is extremely dangerous. How could this be? Luffy couldn't believe it. He dared to swear to God that he had absolutely no intention of destroying Wano Kuni, and he didn't expect that his power would be so strong enough to activate the underwater volcano. Chapter 1102 Seymour Jiji Village Massacre. Hey, Dragon, I'll say Luffy has something to offer. Look at this bounty, the second in the world, much higher than you. Andre, what you're saying isn't funny. Don't be like that. Luffy has made a name for himself. You should be proud of him. Can you not make fun of me? Dragon is a serious and rigorous person, and now he has been ridiculed by Andre in various ways, and his temper has also come up. However, Dragon's strength is not as strong as before. He is half disabled. Even if he goes crazy, he can't hurt Andre. You're so boring. I'd better go and congratulate Garp. I guess he'll be happy. Are you going to be so boring? Dragon slapped his forehead violently, speechless. Andre sneered at Dragon, then went to tease Garp, and Garp's face was even worse. Although Garp is very opposed to Luffy being a pirate, what Luffy does compared to Andre's is like playing at home. Who would have thought that Luffy didn't study well, and actually learned from Andre to destroy the country and destroy the family? Wano Kuni has a population of several million. It just disappeared. And how can such a great sin be atonement? You guys are so boring. Forget it, I'll go back to the New World. After Andre finished speaking, he returned to the yard where he lived, called Carlos and others, and prepared to set off for the return flight. But before Andre left, Garp and Dragon caught up. Andre turned around and asked, "What's the matter? Are you going to fight?" Garp said, "Wait for us and we'll go to the New World with you." "Let's go to the New World together." "What? Are you going to be a guest at my place? Then just bring the people from the village, so that Makino doesn't think about this place occasionally." After Andre finished speaking, he said to Luyu, "Sister Control, go get 2 more boats and bring back all the villagers of Windmill Village." "Take them all?" Luyu asked suspiciously. "Didn't understand." Andre shot him a look. Understood. Lu Yu immediately went to arrange the boat, and at the same time, persuaded the villagers of Windmill Village to leave. Hearing Andre's decision, the crane nodded. This world is not peaceful, it's safer to live on your site. Andre, I thank you in advance for the villagers. It's only 200 or 300 people, I'm not bad for these few mouths, and you don't have to thank me, I just let them go with Makino. Andre shrugged and got on the boat. Originally, Andre only took one boat and chose a fast boat, but because 200 or 300 villagers had to be transported, 2 cargo ships were added. While cargo ships will be less comfortable, the cabins are large enough to hold enough water and food. The 3 ships set sail from Windmill Village, and along the way Dragon hopes to visit Seymour Jiji Village. For Dragon's request, Andre did not deny it, so he allowed it. Actually, Andre knew why Dragon went to Seymour Jiji Village. Because Dragon needs help, the master who can really help him. There is no doubt that Kushiro of the Aikishin Gym is the best candidate for Dragon at the moment. But this master was not here to deal with Andre, because Dragon knew how big the gap between them was. He asked Kushiro to come out, just hoping Kushiro could help him catch Luffy. Before the boat docked at the pier of Seymour Jiji Village, everyone could feel the depression of the village. Dilapidated houses, with burn marks, bullet holes and charred blood. The village has been through fighting, and more than once. For this, both Andre's and Garp's views are the same. Looks like East Blue is in a mess too, Crane said unintentionally. But is it really unintentional? Andre could tell that Crane was speaking to himself, but he didn't intend to take it up. Let's go to the gym first. With Kushiro's strength, ordinary pirates are not his opponents at all. As Dragon said, he, Ivankov and Shang disembarked first, and walked quickly towards Yixin Gym. As soon as the 3 dragons got off the boat, Andre said to Carlos, Carlos, go to the east and take a look. Clean up the unclean things. Don't worry, boss, I know what to do. Carlos responded, and then jumped off the boat. Nympho, you go to the west to take a look. Sister Kong, you go to the north and take a look over the mountain. Good boss. Harold and Ryu also got off the boat. There's nothing I can do except use violence to control violence, because there's only so much I can do. Andre's words were in response to Crane. Crane clearly understood, so he smiled gratefully at Andre. At this moment, Dragon brought Shang and Ivankov to Yixin Gym. Different from the Yixin Gym in the impression, the current Yixin Gym is very dilapidated. The door of the gym was tattered, with a layer of cobwebs on it, and the paper lanterns on both sides of the door were even more torn to reveal the frame. The gym was also silent, there was no sound, and obviously no students were cultivating. How did this place become like this? Ivankov and Kushiro have a very good relationship, and at this moment he pushed open the door and rushed into the gym. The moment the door was opened, the house was full of corpses, including the corpses of gym students and pirates. The pungent stench of the corpses made Ivankov groan in his heart. Kushiro. Ivankov shouted Kushiro's name loudly. Dragon and Ivankov, who then entered the gym, were also stunned by the sight in front of them. How is it possible? Is this still Kushiro's gym? Looking at the corpses everywhere, Dragon gritted his teeth, his eyes widened with anger, and his fists were almost crushed to pieces. Have you found Kushiro? Bear asked Ivankov at this time. Ivankov searched inside and out, but there was no body of Kushiro. There is no body, which is good news, at least it proves that Kushiro is still alive. But who would be able to make Seymour Jiji Village look like this? Dragon doesn't believe East Blue has such a powerful pirate right now. With all kinds of questions, the 3 dragons returned to the pier. Why are you 3 alone? Andre asked Dragon first. I don't know, Kushiro is not here, and his gym. Dragon then recounted what he had just seen. Does East Blue still have such a powerful master? Andre was stunned for a long time, knowing that he is a pirate leader, and only young people with strength and potential. He will pay special attention to it, but East Blue in the past 2 years, there's really no such thing. Chapter 1103 Fake Pirates, Suspenseful Disappearances. Half an hour later, Carlos, Harold, and Luyu came back one after another. How? Andre asked. Carlos replied first. Boss, I went for a walk in the mountains. Except for some refugees, there is nothing suspicious, and those refugees are hiding in the mountains, and they don't know what happened in Seymour Jiji village. Harold replied. I am about the same. I walked along the beach and passed 2 villages, but there are no signs of being attacked there, and I have not heard of any vicious pirates. The end. It was Luyu's turn, and he directly spread out his hands. I investigated for 20 kilometers, but I didn't see anything. Pirates, bandits, nothing. Later, I went to the sea for a lap, but I didn't see anything suspicious. Ships. Andre analyzed the reports of the 3, and after thinking about it, he said, in other words, the massacre in Seymour Jiji village was not accidental, but targeted, and Seymour Jiji village asked for money but had no money. There are no treasures and no treasures, that is to say. Dragon said in a deep voice, they are here to target Kushiro. Snapped. Andre snapped his fingers. I just walked around the village a little bit. Although there are bloodstains and corpses, I didn't see the child's corpse. Counting the missing Kushiro, the answer is ready to come out. Garp said, you're saying that someone blackmailed the children of Seymour Jiji and forced Kushiro to leave with them. It should be like this. Andre nodded, then patted Luyu's shoulder. Go check their origins. Check the history. Both Garp and Dragon were stunned, not knowing what Andre meant, let alone who Andre was referring to when he said, they. Boss, isn't it? It stinks. Are you going to be beaten? Then I'll go. Luyu shrugged helplessly, and then reluctantly came to a corpse. It was the corpse of a pirate, and Luyu took off all the clothes on the pirate. Generally, corpses will appear corpse spots within half an hour to 2 hours. At room temperature, the corpse will become stiff for half an hour. After 3 hours, some muscles will become stiff, and 6 to 8 hours will spread to the joints of the whole body. 12 to 10 it peaks at 5 hours, remission occurs at 26 to 32 hours, and the stiffness of the corpse disappears in 2 to 3 days in summer, 3 to 4 days in spring, and 3 to 7 days in winter. The weather in the village of Seymour Jiji is not bad, the temperature is not too different from summer, so these bodies have existed for at least 10 days. After Luyu finished speaking, he cut open the pirate's mouth per bar and abdomen with a knife, and checked the condition of his teeth and stomach. These guys are living a good life, and the wear and tear of these teeth looks like a guard raised by a noble family. The stomach is also very good, there is no inflammation, the organs are all healthy, and there is no malnutrition. Sigh. Sigh. The villagers who came from Fengche village all vomited. Although Luyu said it professionally, it was too disgusting. Dragon was stunned. Andre, you still have such talent. Andre said with a chuckle. Although this guy's personal life is a bit unusual, he is well versed in books and proficient in astronomy and geography, so these things are not difficult for him. When Luyu was praised, his face was indifferent, as if it was nothing. Boss, although these guys are wearing pirate clothes, they can't be pirates. Garp frowned and asked, how did you know they weren't? By the teeth. First of all, their bodies are very clean, and pirates often drift at sea, and the supply of fresh water is more difficult, so the minions wash less often, and their teeth, most of the pirates, rations are pancakes that are easy to keep. Jerky, sometimes grilled meat, the food of the minions is naturally worse, so the wear of the teeth is inevitable, and the nails of these guys, especially the toenails, are simply too clean, although they changed a pair of dirty, smelly shoes. Luyu analyzed item by item, and finally came to the conclusion, these people should be private soldiers, and the object of their allegiance may be the great nobles, or the royal family. Nobles. Royals. Dragon is a little confused. If it is a pirate, it can explain the reason why they attacked Seymour Jiji village, but the other party is a group of pirates in disguise, and if Yuyu's analysis is correct, then why did these nobles and royal families do this? Okay, I'll check it for you too. If you want to know more, check it out yourself. I don't have time to accompany you. After Andre finished speaking, he turned and got into the boat. Carlos and others naturally followed the boat. After Dragon exchanged glances with Baron Ivankov, he could only follow Andre out of here first. Because they all knew that there were countless talented people around Andre. If they could ask him for help, it would definitely be more efficient than blindly looking for them. When the three ships left Seymour Jiji village, some strange rumors spread one after another. For example, a bounty hunter who retired in a certain village suddenly disappeared, and a big pirate who was retired in a certain town suddenly disappeared. These rumors are getting more and more strange, but for some reason, these news have not been published in the newspapers. Through the windless belt, the direct shortcut was taken into the Great Route. When passing through the windless belt, Andre and his party did not encounter the Sea Kings, but 2 days after entering the Great Route, they encountered Sea Kings at least 30 times. Fortunately, Andre's observation hockey has always covered several kilometers of sea, so once a Sea King is approaching, he will predict in advance and use Conqueror hockey to expel it. It seems that the scourge of this Sea King cannot be eliminated in a short time. Andre sat on the bow and muttered secretly. Although he had long guessed the destructive power of the Sea King, he did not expect the destructive power of the Sea King to be continuous. What is even more terrifying is that if effective control methods are not made, the Great Route will simply become a paradise for the Sea Kings. After all, the food here is more abundant. Don't come here. Ah! Just when Andre was thinking about something, a scream suddenly came from a distance. Unbelievably, the people who made the screams were actually dozens of sailors. The battleship these sailors were on was attacked by 2 giant Sea Kings, and their commander is now only half corpse lying on the deck. Chapter 1104. Can you go? I can't go. Is the purpose of this warship going to sea to clear the Sea Kings? But their strength is too scum. Andre can't judge in a short time, but there is still a living opening on the opposite side, just grab a few interrogations. Without hesitation, Andre glared, Conqueror hockey released instantly, and the designated objects were the 2 giant Sea Kings. The 2 giant Sea Kings were attacked by Andre's Conqueror hockey before rolling their eyes and falling into the sea. Great, saved. Mom, I survived. The sailors were ecstatic, hugging each other and cheering. But these sailors soon realized that they were not out of danger. Andre. Tyrant. Andre doesn't need to stress his identity, he just needs to stand where he is and let them see his face. The notoriety of tyrants has dominated this sea for too long, and wherever news birds can fly, people there know Andre. Ask them why they're here and let them fend for themselves. Andre didn't intend to kill this group of Marines. Although killing was a simple matter for him, killing some ants-like existences would not benefit his own prestige. Instead, he would appear a little petty, weakening the tyrant's reputation. Name. Carlos, Harold, and Luyu gathered together. The 3 guys had a tacit understanding and pointed to Enel at the same time. Shall I go? It's me again. Enel pointed to the tip of his nose. You're a professional. If you didn't go, let us go. I'll only say it by slashing people. After Harold said shamelessly, Enel had no choice but to do things. After a while, there were bursts of thunderlight from the warship. God's judgment. Enel has a heart, so the efficiency of the interrogation is extremely high, and the Marines quickly explained it. This warship is indeed going to sea to encircle and suppress the Sea Kings, and their commander Mori Vice Admiral also has the strength to hunt the Sea Kings alone, but not long ago, a speedboat attacked them, and the mysterious man on the speedboat still they killed their commander, and the blood and the sound of fighting attracted the surrounding Sea Kings, and this was the scene where they were besieged by the Sea Kings. Marine encircled the Sea Kings, but someone came to hunt Marine. Who do you think would do it? Andre held his chin with one hand, thinking intently. Garp, Crane, and Dragon all looked at Andre. What kind of eyes do you guys have? Andre rolled his eyes at the three of them. Even if you didn't do it, it is estimated that you will be framed on your head. It seems that some people do not want to end the harm of the Sea Kings to the world, and increase the hatred of the world towards you and the Zero Team. Oh, the only person who can do this is Tenryubito. I'm really difficult to get along with. Who else in this world hates me so much? Andre shrugged nonchalantly. After about half an hour, Carlos came back from Enel, and brought back the speedboat map drawn by the sailors. Frankie battle. This is Andre's first reaction after seeing the picture. Carlos asked, "Boss, are you going to see the Seven Waters?" "I still have to make a trip, but it's a bit far from the Seven Waters." Andre pondered, thinking about whether to change the waterway and go to the Seven Waters. Said at this time, "Boss, the power on the French battleship is only enough to travel 100 nautical miles, which means that if we pursue at full speed, we may catch him." "Well, then don't go to the Seven Waters." Andre finished, and let Lu Yu prepare. The hurricane ability of the flow is most suitable for the three-masted sail to sail and accelerate. At this moment, the wind is blowing, and the three ships are like chicken blood, and they are moving forward. ... Galloping 50 nautical miles, I didn't see any suspicious targets in the process. Andre gave up the idea of chasing the mysterious man, let Lu Yu take a breath, and found a random island to stop at. According to the sea map in his head, Lu Yu quickly chooses the course. "Boss, in front of you is the Kingdom of Hotez, we can go there to rest." The Kingdom of Tez is a rather unique country with its own writing, language, arts, education and traditions. Although the Kingdom of Tez is also one of the world's allied countries, this country is very low-key and never interferes, or does not participate in any international activities. In short, the king and citizens of this country are otakus, unless it is a world conference that must be attended, except for in addition, they basically do not leave their own country, still maintain the traditional slash-and-burn farming, and live a life of self-entertainment and indifference to the world. The Kingdom of Tez. Garp had been there once when he was young, and his impression was that it was a very clean and simple country. It's a very nice place. Dragon has also been there, and in his impression, the buildings of the Tez people are mostly made of white stone, which is very magnificent. Even around the general house, flowers and plants will be planted. At the same time, the surrounding of flowers and plants is pastoral, which is simply a paradise. Andre, you better not go there. Crane had a good impression of King Tez, a very friendly elder. And this guy Andre is the god of plague. Wherever he goes, he will die. If you can go, I can't. Andre was unhappy. From Upside Down Mountain to the Great Route, there are 7 different routes. Although Andre has been in this world for many years, it is impossible to travel through all these routes. Fortunately, while ruling the sea, the voyage diary and recording pointers he received make the flow the more perfect the chart is. Therefore, Lu Yu can familiarize himself with the names of the countries and islands on each route. Continuing to sail for more than 2 hours, Andre had a glimpse of the coast of the Kingdom of Tez. And the first impression that Tez Kingdom gave Andre was that kind of mysterious ancient civilization. There are watchtowers on the coast, built of white stone, with traces and moss left by the years. As soon as the 3 ships approached, a group of spear soldiers with eagles peeping on their heads ran over. These soldiers had brown faces and began to roar in the direction of the ship. %& and. What do these natives say? Andre asked Ryu. Lu Yu shrugged. Boss, I don't understand either. Then let them shut up first. Andre glared. Conqueror Haki released, directly knocking the soldiers out. Chapter 1105 Still Kill. While disembarking, Andre also allowed the villagers of Windmill Village to land to get some air. Walking all the way to the town, Andre found that the Kingdom of Tez was similar to what Lu Yu and Dragon described, with a primitive sense of mystery, and some of the commoners who came across were still collecting berries in the bushes. These civilians saw when they saw Andre was to hide in the bushes. Andre didn't mind either. He didn't deliberately embarrass these civilians who didn't communicate with the outside world, and there were TES people who didn't speak the language, and he didn't even want to kill them. The folk customs here are really simple. Harold picked up a wooden basket from the bushes and handed it to Andre. "Boss, try it, the fruit here is very sweet and delicious." There are fruits like blueberries, apples, and oranges in the wooden baskets. It can be seen that the island is rich in products. Andre picked up an apple-shaped fruit, wiped it, and took a few bites. Nami and Robin also came over to share the fruit, and several of them were obviously attracted by the fresh, juicy and sweet fruits, which were enough to be described as gobbling up. Gulu, the residents of Windmill Village were stunned. They sailed all the way to this place with Andre. The fruit they brought on the boat has long been eaten. These days, they are eating dry food and urgently need to replenish fruit. If you want to eat it, go pick it up. What are you doing standing there stupidly? Andre shook his head, then tossed the core. Although there are only 200 or 300 people in the Windmill Village, all of them are like refugees. They enter the fruit tree and eat happily. Just when everyone was satisfying their appetites, there was a sudden sound of hurried footsteps in the jungle in the distance. Stomping on. The voice was neat, as if he was stepping forward. Looking at the prestige, I saw more than 100 TES strong men wearing tiger, leopard and wolf skins at the head. Each of them was over 2 meters tall, and each of them was holding a stone hammer. The hammer head of the stone hammer is the size of a football, as if to tell others that this weapon carries a lot of weight. And behind these strong TES men in tiger, leopard and wolf skins, followed by thousands of warriors wearing bird feathers, these warriors each carried a wooden spear, and carried a bow and quiver on their waists. After these TES people lined up and stood firm, another man with a height of nearly 2.2 meters, wearing a tiger skin on his head, a lion's mane around his neck, a crocodile skin around his waist, and a wolf tooth necklace, left. "Come over." Andre in the less proficient continental language at the moment, "Who are you? Why did you come to TES Kingdom?" "Wait." Before the man could finish speaking, Andre suddenly raised his hand. "What's wrong?" the man asked suspiciously. "You don't know me?" Andre asked. The man shook his head blankly. "You fell off the Infinity Land, right?" Andre said he couldn't believe it, because the Kingdom of TES was also one of the world governments, and newsbirds flew here every day to deliver newspapers. The man replied, "I am a TES who was born here and grew up here. I don't know where you are talking about the Infinite Land. Are they really world government affiliations?" Andre turned to Garp and Crane at this point. Garp and Crane walked up to Andre at this time, and whispered, "Only the royal family here can understand newspapers, and although this one is a general, it's good to be able to listen and speak barely. The whole country is illiterate." Andre looked at the opposite side in surprise. "Who are you saying is illiterate?" The general seemed very excited, and then said proudly, "We TES people, every child will receive a perfect education, and this is free, a privilege that only we TES people have." With such a strong sense of national pride, it's no wonder that you stay in your own country and refuse to accept things from the outside world. At this time, Lu Yu took out a voyage diary and recorded what happened today. "Well, although you don't know me, it doesn't matter." Andre coughed lightly and released Conqueror Haki directly. With the release of Andre's Conqueror Haki, those ordinary warriors with bird feathers on their heads all fell to the ground. Only the general and the 100 or so people behind him were still standing. However, the general's face was full of shock. At this time, he opened his eyes wide and looked at Andre in shock and fear. "Are you also a god?" "Impossible, this world is only our TES people, His Royal Highness and the Moon God. People other than His Highness the God of War possess this kind of divine power." Moon God, Aries God. Andre squinted. He now roughly understands what is going on in this country. "I think it is 2 guys with Conqueror Haki who jointly created and ruled this country. In order to maintain their rule, they selected from their children with Conqueror Haki, and instilled this idea from generation to generation." The general didn't wait for Andre to answer. He pulled out the stone axe on his back, pointed at Andre and yelled, "You must be an evil god, are you here to destroy our country? You are crazy." Andre subconsciously burst into foul language, because at this time General Tez rushed over with 100 elite Tez warriors. However, before General Nades could cut out an axe, Andre used Shigan finger pistol to pierce his head. As for the other 100 elites, they were all killed by Harold, Carlos and others within tens of seconds. Kill, kill. I knew he couldn't come to this country. Crane looked helpless. Hey, but this time, they took the initiative to do it. Dragon was fair this time. As soon as he landed on the island, he killed people, and Andre's original mood to play easily was also destroyed. At this moment, he could only release his momentum and let the two gods of this country feel their arrival. When the owners of Conqueror Hockey get close, they resonate with each other. The main temple in the center of the city is surrounded by pheasant walls. On the top of the tower, there is a temple dedicated to the first generation of war god Lobo and the first generation of moon god Terrakuro. The altar is surrounded by stone carvings of snake heads and stones under the altar, each weighing 10 tons. Inscribed with various demons and monsters defeated by Lobo and Terrakuro. This moment, when Andre's Conqueror Hockey came, a man and a woman in the temple opened their eyes at the same time. Chapter 1106 Mystical Astrologer. What a strong Hockey. Better than you and me combined. We are not his opponents. After a brief exchange, the man and woman stood up one after another and left the temple. It seems that today is not in vain. Andre squinted and grinned at the neighborhoods of town. Boss, what are you talking about? It's better to teach them a lesson. Liu Yu's method was very simple. He directly sent a hurricane to Tez. No need. Andre shook his head. Even if the host is not hospitable, it doesn't matter. I have never treated myself as a guest. After Andre finished speaking, he jumped high, and then used the moon step to rush towards the direction of the temple. The temple was in the very center of the town, when the drums were pounding loudly, and a large number of Tez warriors were called together. Outside the temple, a man and a woman stood up one after another. These men and women are the current god of war and god of moon in the temple. The evil god has launched an invasion. O warriors and people of the gods, fight bravely. Although the mobilization voice was not very loud or penetrating, the men and women of the Tez tribe were all very fanatical, including their king. Without the need for extra energy and motivation, the Kingdom of Tez has organized more than 50,000 warriors, including 3,000 elites. Under the leadership of King Tato, the mighty prepares to set off. However, before the group of them could rush out, they heard, ha ha ha, laughter from the air. I'm Edward Andre, if you don't want to die, just kneel on the ground for me. The sound wave contained a little bit of collapsing energy. Ordinary people had splitting headaches when they heard it, and their blood was agitated, and they soon bleed from their noses and mouths. Even the trained fighters all felt unbearable. As a king, Tato has seen the world, and he is also one of the few literate people in the Kingdom of Tez. Therefore, Tato's face turned pale when he heard that Andre was here. Tyrant Edward Andre is a strong man that even the world government fears. Kneel down, all kneel. Tato didn't want to, let alone fight with Andre, so he immediately fell to his knees. The generals behind Tato and the soldiers looked at each other, wondering why Tato was so afraid. It's actually a tyrant. A man and a woman in the temple looked solemn at the moment. As Tato knelt down, the soldiers and people of Tez country fell to the ground one after another. Ha ha ha. That's right. With wild laughter, Andre then fell from the sky. At the moment when both feet stepped on the ground, there was a great earthquake, and the resulting cracks cracked all the way to the temple. You two guys don't want to kneel, do you want to die? Andre smiled at a man and a woman in the temple. My name is Bodies. My name is Athena. Please don't kill us, Lord Tyrant. The man and woman immediately fell to their knees. Because they have seen too much news, they know that being brave in front of tyrants will only lead to death. It's very smart, you continue to be your gods, I'm not interested in you, but... Andrei's eyes suddenly turned cold. You have a master here, why don't you ask him to come out and meet me? Master. Master. Both Bodies and Athena were stunned. Thanks to both of you having Conqueror Haki, didn't you sense the existence of that guy? Andrei suddenly stopped, then clenched his fist and slammed into a house in the distance. The house was shattered in an instant. And behind that private house, was a man with hair like a pile of hay. The man looked like a beggar, his tattered linen trousers tied around his waist with a straw rope. The two hands, like eagle claws, were thin with exposed blue veins. The most surprising thing was that his eyes were still covered with cloth, and he could only see half of his face covered by the cloth. At the man's feet, there were two knives, the shape of which was similar to a dog-leg knife, but much larger than the dog-leg knife. What's your name? Andrei asked with a chuckle. The man didn't say his name, but instead asked Andrei, Demon, why did you come to this country, do you want to bring disaster here? Bastard, didn't you hear Lord Tyrant ask your name? Bodies had the potential to be a jerk, and now he took the initiative to express himself in front of Andrei. You do not belong to this world, and your presence will only bring destruction to this world. As if he hadn't heard Bodies' words, the man still kept his original actions and spoke in a hurry. Others may be confused, but Andrei clenched his fists, and now he asks sharply, who are you? The man replied indifferently, I'm just an ordinary astrologer. Say your name and who you really are. Andrei's Conqueror Haki was released in an instant, and suddenly, the surrounding soldiers and civilians died, fainted. Conqueror Haki destroyed their brain neurons, ranging from death to dementia. Bodies and Athena, who also owned Conqueror Haki, were in a cold sweat at the moment. The sense of oppression Andrei gave them was terrifying. However, the blindfolded man sitting on the ground remained motionless, as if it had no influence at all. Ha ha ha. Fun. Andrei's eyes widened, and then he stomped on the ground hard, and the ground cracked and the house was completely destroyed. The blindfolded man grabbed a knife in one hand and slashed forward. The magnificent sword chi burst out and collided with the shocking force that Andrei stepped out. Boom. There was a sound of explosion in the air, and under the residual power of the explosion, King Tato was directly killed after being affected. Say your name and identity, or you'll be dead today. Andrei's brows froze, his eyes narrowed, and he instantly pulled out the Heavenly Kingdom and the Fudu Yusol from his waist. The man then replied, I said, I'm just an ordinary astrologer. Then you must have predicted that you would die here today. Andrei grinned, shaving in a row, and there was a squeaking sound in the air, but seeing Andrei's figure moving so fast, he couldn't catch his next footwork at all. The blindfolded man stood up slowly, holding a knife in both hands. Die! Andrei let out a loud shout and slashed in the air with a slash. The strength of this slash was enough to cut through the mountains and split the sea. However, the blindfolded man raised his knife and blocked Andrei's attack with one strike. Chapter 1107 Spy on Tyrants. The two swords clashed, and dazzling sparks burst out. Andrei had already felt the power of the blindfolded man at this time, which was indeed unusual. And the blindfolded man also understood Andrei's strength, so he shot without reservation. Jingle jingle. Sparks flew, and fires ignited all around. The sword chi was vertical and horizontal, and the violent force shattered the earth 3 feet. Andrei and the blindfolded man fought knife to knife, strong to strong, and they showed no mercy to each other. The blade brushes the face, reflects the face, and scratches the throat with the blade, shocking. The sword is dangerous, and life and death hang on the line. Don't tell me yet. Andrei snorted coldly, his muscles swelled, blood vessels dilated, his heartbeat accelerated, his strength increased again, and he was ready to crush his opponent with strength. And the blindfolded man knew the gap between himself and Andrei, so he swung both swords at the moment, using offense instead of defense, trying to force Andrei to be able to defend himself. Two people, four knives, are all attacking each other with all their strength, and there is no way to block. Hearing the fighting, Carlos and the others were all staring at their pockets at the moment. Because they never imagined that such a strong man could be hidden in this inconspicuous little place. Especially Harold, who frowned at the moment. No, it's not right. What's wrong? Carlos asked subconsciously. The angle and timing of the attack, and the strength of the sword are all fine, but although Harold used a sword, the swords all had similarities, so under his observation, he could clearly perceive that the man is not like a man with a knife. Before Harold could observe again, the blindfolded man suddenly held the two dog-leg knives horizontally together, and there was a slot behind the two dog-leg knives. The two knives were now connected and instantly became a circle, dart. What is there to say? If you are allowed to live, you will destroy the world sooner or later. So please die. The blindfolded man roared, and the boomerang was thrown fiercely. The boomerang twirled wildly in the air, and at the same time rolled up the knife gas, turning it into a tornado. Wherever the tornado passed, vegetation, houses, and civilians were all involved, turning into a rain of blood and debris. Is this your realization? Andre let out a low growl, then shouted, 80 times the power burst. Breaking the mountain and smashing it. The knife gas carried thousands of collapsing energy and slashed directly towards the tornado. It exploded like a 10,000-ton TNT explosion, and countless flying sand and stones were splashed on the spot. The blindfolded man was pierced by this residual energy, and he couldn't help but take hundreds of steps back, and then he stopped worthy of it. Say your name and identity, and I'll leave you with a whole corpse. Andre had already put the knife back in its sheath, and walked towards the blindfolded man step by step. The blindfolded man's observation hockey is only stronger than Fujitora. Seeing Andre approaching, he raised his trembling hands and took out a crescent-shaped dagger from behind him, as if he wanted to do the last resistance. Knowing it is death, why don't you accept death happily? Andre snorted coldly. At this moment, his figure flashed, and he came to the blindfolded man in an instant. The latter was about to swing a dagger to fight back, but Andre grabbed his wrist with one hand, and before the latter could lift his knee, he took the lead with an elbow and slammed into the man's mouth, instantly shattering his bones and injuring his neck veins. Before the blindfolded man could feel the pain of the broken bones, Andre took a step back with his right foot. At the same time, he rolled his body in the air, and turned the blindfolded man's arm 720 degrees, breaking it into a twist on the spot, and the bones also pierced out. Muscle and skin. After subduing the blindfolded man, Andre yelled, "Shao I?" What's the matter, boss? Enel was stunned for more than 10 seconds before realizing it. For some reason, every time he saw Andre subdue his opponent, his heart palpitated. Andre said coldly, "Interrogate him, I want to know all his secrets." ... What Crane was worried about still happened. Andre came to Tez country for less than a day, and Tez country was almost destroyed. A large number of civilians and warriors, even their king, died. And what worries Crane even more is Andre's current state. Andre's eyes were sullen, like a silent volcano that was about to erupt. Fortunately, Andre did not plan to stay in Tez country for a long time. The next morning, the supply ended and the route was changed to the Seven Waters. Along the way, sea kings are rampant, and there are few ships on the route. Before the change, Andre just used Conqueror Hockey to expel these sea kings, but now he is directly slashing with a knife. Of course, it must be a good thing for Andre to kill the sea kings, but Andre is full of violence when he swings the knife, which is daunting. So much so that when he arrived at the Seven Waters, he encountered cargo ships, merchant ships, and warships that were attacked by the sea kings along the way. Although Andre shook the world with his reputation as a tyrant, Crane always felt that something was wrong. Andre wasn't trying to make a name for himself, just like venting. What was destroyed was only a small half of the waning moon, which was covered by dark clouds, making the water dark tonight. When Andrei landed in the capital of Seven Waters, the previous prosperity had long since disappeared. There were sharp and hard wooden spears erected everywhere on the beachhead, which seemed to be to resist the Sea Kings, but even so, the beaches and piers were surrounded by quietly, the entire city's population seemed to have evaporated by more than half. Looking up, although there are still lights, but sporadic and pitiful. Boss, it seems that the capital of Seven Waters has also been attacked by the Sea Kings. Carlos said with emotion. Liu Yu said, there are already many Sea Kings around the capital of Seven Waters, and it is not surprising that the Sea Kings are concentrated here on the main channel. Sister, go to Frankie and find out who got the Frankie battlehorn from him. Carlos, go to Iceberg. Nympho, you stay here, you can't let a person go. Shall I follow me and cover the entire water city with your heart net? After Andrei finished speaking, he walked directly in the direction of the city hall. Walking on the streets that were once prosperous and lively and filled with the aroma of barbecue. Enel heard faint noises coming from the rubble on the eaves. Enel whispered his hand, Boss, someone is watching us. Spy on tyrants. These young people really don't want to live. Andrei snorted coldly, grabbed a bamboo pole from a street vendor, and threw it violently. Chapter 1108 Monster Killer. Bamboo poles pierced through residential buildings in an instant, forcing a figure. The figure was a woman. Her graceful figure was wrapped in a black leather coat, and 2 thorns were tied to each of her slender, long legs. That woman just wanted to spy on Andrei. She didn't want to shoot here at all. After all, fighting Andrei was just courting death. However, she had no choice now, so she had to risk being killed to fight Andrei. Andrei didn't turn to look at the woman behind him, and asked coldly, Did Tenryubito send you here? Yeah. The woman didn't answer Andrei's question, only to see her charging forward with 2 sharp thorns in both hands. I have to say, this woman is really agile. Shave cooperates with Moonstep, and then cooperates with the surrounding buildings, constantly changing his position, and the fast naked eye can't catch it. But does this work for Andrei? Although I don't like killing women, that doesn't mean I won't kill them. Andrei snorted coldly through his nostrils, then stomped on the ground. Immediately, the shock penetrated into the ground, and hundreds of 100-meter-long ground cones burst out of the bricks, mercilessly stabbing at the woman. The woman's pupils dilated, and at this moment she changed her move immediately, and hurriedly tapped the ground cone with the sharp thorn in her hand. With the power of the ground cone, the woman wanted to turn over and fly into the air, and then used Moonstep to distance herself. It's just that the woman's plan was ultimately miscalculated, because Andrei then raised his foot again, stomping the ground seemingly at random. Bang! The whole street trembled like a wave, and suddenly, countless rubble flew up, shooting towards the woman like dense raindrops. This moment's movement was unexpected, and the woman was turning over in the air, and she couldn't change direction at all. Therefore, a large number of stones hit the woman's body relentlessly like an ice shaver, with a power that surpassed that of human beings. Can imagine. Snapped, snapped, snapped. The sound continued until it landed with a thud, and the woman's body fell to the ground like a slapped fly, causing the person to faint instantly. There seems to be more than one ignorant fly. Andrei snorted coldly. How powerful his observation hockey is, although the scope is not as exaggerated as Enel's heart outline, but as long as he is willing, even the slightest movement in the alleys can't escape his perception. Come out, I have already noticed your existence. There is no way to hide in front of this tyrant, and there is no need to hide. Andrei spoke directly and said lightly. Boss, let you come out, how long do you want to hide? At this moment, thunder and lightning flashed behind Enel, and then he saw that he was moving in the direction behind him, releasing 2 judgments of the gods. Pale thunder light descended from the sky, and in an instant, it illuminated the capital of Seven Waters. Boom! After a loud noise, Andrei felt a gust of wind blowing across his forehead, and a dark blue shadow fell not far behind him. Down. Your strength is not bad, shall I grab her and try her? Andre still didn't turn around. Behind him was a man wearing a blue tight waistband, tight leather pants, long leather gloves and leather boots, a charming woman with white hair and wheat-colored skin. "Lord Tyrant, don't be so rude." The coquettish woman let out a silver bell-like laughter. Enel then waved his going stick and charged at the woman. "Lord Thor, he is so savage." The woman deliberately jumped forward, landed in front of Andre, and stood up gracefully, posing in a provocative teasing, human standing position, staring at Andre with those soul-stirring brows, as if she wanted to Andre saw her shape and features. I have to say that this is a tall and slender woman with a beautiful and charming face on her long melon seed face, and her graceful figure exudes a mysterious and somewhat melancholy charm. The tun and shang parts of the front convex backward, the azure blue leather clothes all over the body, look extra dazzling against the contrast of her protein-colored skin, and with dark blue high-heeled leather boots, she is nearly 2 meters tall. In terms of appearance, figure and temperament alone, the woman in front of her will not lose to Hancock. "Lord Tyrant, considering my beauty, at least let me say a few words first." As the woman spoke, she walked towards Andre step by step, twisting her waist and hips. Andre didn't shoot, and Enel did and continued to attack the woman without Andre's orders. The woman stopped in front of Andre, put one hand on Andrexion's chest, and said charmingly, "Lord Tyrant, to be honest, I came to negotiate with you on behalf of Mariajoy." "What do you want to talk about?" Andre asked coldly. "Don't be so indifferent, Lord Tyrant. My master wants to tell you that as long as you are willing to hand over the Sea King Poseidon, then this world will be divided by the Red Continent, and the New World, North Blue and West Blue will belong to you. Simple well, the world will be divided into half in the future." Quote. The woman's voice was crisp, and the heartstrings were rippling. "Want Aquaman? This is your bargaining chip. Is it your low IQ, or do you think I'm as stupid as you? Don't be in a hurry to veto, Lord Tyrant." The woman's cold hand touched on Andre's chest, and she said in a sarcastic voice, "Since it's a negotiation, of course we can make concessions to each other." The woman spoke, her chun petals opened lightly, blowing out a pink fragrance, and the fragrance also contained pink pollen, which was almost invisible. Enel, who was behind Andre, just inhaled a little pollen, raised his hand to support his forehead. At this moment, there was a burst of dizziness in his brain, and his heart was pounding like a deer. "What's the matter with me?" Enel kept shaking his head. Snort. A cold hum sounded like thunder in Enel's ear, and in an instant, Enel's dizziness disappeared. "Stop that silly trick, it's still a stupid trick in front of a tyrant." Andre raised his hand and grabbed the woman's wrist. "Lord Tyrant, you hurt me." The woman pretended to be weak, and Andre had already sensed something strange. Andre let go of his hand, looked down, and saw that his wrist had lost consciousness, and the black pigmentation spread to half of his arm. The most beautiful flower in the world is not only poisonous, but also thorny. The woman was about to laugh smugly when Andre suddenly raised his hand and grabbed her neck again. "These stupid tricks don't work against tyrants." Chapter 1109 Spooky Death. Carlos and Luyu came back one after another, but neither of them found Iceberg or Frankie. Learned from Barry that Iceberg and Frankie had both disappeared a few days ago. The disappearance of the mayor and guardian of the Seven Waters is naturally very serious. In order to maintain the stability of the waters, Barry and others can only temporarily keep secrets, and at the same time send a large number of people to investigate the whereabouts of the two. However, the result of the investigation was that the whereabouts of the two were unknown. Koshiro is missing, so are Iceberg and Frankie. Andre thought about it in his heart, and then said to Luyu, "Sister, go to Xiaoai's place and help him interrogate him together. Whether it's the blind man or the two women, I will dig out their secrets." "Yes, boss." Luyu nodded, then went to find Enel. "Barry, well, I'm a little impressed." Andre remembered Barry as a prudent man who would sneer at scantily clad women. "Lord Andre." Barry trembled in his heart. Those who can be remembered by tyrants are all great people. Don't be nervous, you're so weak, how could I kill you? Andre patted Barry on the shoulder, then said, are all those clippers that Frankie built still? Barry replied, all gone, not one left. Well, you can leave now. Andre waved, Barry bowed, and left the room. As soon as Barry left, Carlos asked, Boss, do you think this is Tenryubito doing something? I don't know. It's meaningless to say that hunting Marine and putting the blame on me. The people in this world who want to kill me are enough to go around the world hand in hand for several times. Andre sighed, then said to him. Carlos said, contact the assassination team and ask Khalifa or Monet to come, I have something for them to do. Yes, Carlos responded and went to contact the assassination force stronghold in the water capital. Early in the morning, Andre and the Garp family had breakfast. Garp and Dragon knew what happened last night. Andre didn't mention it, that didn't mean they wouldn't ask. But before Crane had a chance to speak, Enel hurried in. Harold was still yawning and asked sleepily, Shall I, you are in such a hurry to eat? Enel ignored Harold and said, Boss, that blind man is dead. Dead? Andre broke the chopsticks in his hand in an instant. Why did you suddenly die? What did you do? Let you judge someone, and you can actually kill someone. Andre's voice was aggressive, and Enel was also a little scared. Boss, I don't know, I really didn't kill him. Shut up. Andre slapped the tabletop and said to Lu Yu, Sister Kong, go to the autopsy immediately. Okay, boss. Lu Yu couldn't figure out what happened to his boss to be so angry, but he complied. Because of the tyrant's anger, there was no way to eat this breakfast, so Dragon and Garp naturally didn't dare to ask. The flow goes faster and comes back faster. In less than half an hour, Lu Yu came back. Boss, that person died of natural exhaustion and has nothing to do with Shao Ai. Andre's brows were furrowed at the passing autopsy conclusion. Natural death. Andre naturally believed Lu Yu's report, but when the man fought against him, he was obviously a master. Although he was seriously injured, he was treated after the war, so there should be no danger to his life. Boss, he's just a blind man. Although his strength is very strong, but... Before Harold could finish his sentence, Andre interrupted him directly. No, he is definitely not an ordinary blind man, absolutely not. Quote. Harold was speechless, not knowing how to answer. However, what Lu Yu said next made Harold also hear the strangeness. He only heard him say, Boss, although that guy died of natural causes, it is really strange. If you die, you will die. Will the corpse still grow flowers? It's not Changhua, it's his body, such as muscle strength. It's just ordinary, it can't be ordinary anymore. According to Lu Yu's explanation, the blindfolded man's corpse was undoubtedly inferior to that of an ordinary person, even the body of an ordinary sailor. How is this possible? The body of an ordinary person, but fighting with Andre for so long? Dragon and Garp looked at each other with shock in their eyes. At this time, Harold also recalled the fighting process of that day. No wonder, I feel that there is something wrong with him when he uses the knife. It turns out that the muscles are not right. When a normal person swings the knife, the muscles in his arms will swell, while the muscles in his waist will swell. It's going to be tight. The analysis of the crowd made Andre believe that this matter was absolutely extraordinary, so he said to Harold, Tell Sabo and let him arrange for someone to go to Tez and bring back everything in their country, brick by brick. Don't let it go. Maikong, Robin, you are responsible for this matter. Dig 3 feet and find out the truth, no matter what astrologer or identity he is, do you understand? Andre's tone was a little heavy, but everyone knew this was important. Soon, everyone in the room moved around. Only Andre, Dragon, Garp, and Suru were left in the restaurant. Suru asked, What about the female killer last night? What about Kushiro and Frankie's disappearance? What are you going to do? Tenryubito, even if Caligula isn't dead, it doesn't matter. I'm sure I can kill him anyway. The difference is when to kill him. Andre said disapprovingly. he still cared about the blind man. Andre, it's dangerous for you to be so contemptuous of Tenryubito. Dragon warned. If they can make me feel the danger, then I am happy to face it. Andre stopped talking to Dragon, and Garp grabbed Dragon too. Garp said to Andre, Andre, can you do me a favor? Help, can you bring your grandson home? I'm sorry, I'm busy right now and don't have the time. Crane didn't wait for Andre to finish his refusal, and said, we want to ask you to find out where Sengoku is, he's also missing. Sengoku also disappeared. Andre looked at the three suspiciously, and the three nodded at the same time. Chapter 1110 Death Experiment. Mariajoy. Saint Caligula has been secretly recuperating these days, keeping the other Tenryubitos from knowing. Although the most precious medicinal materials and the best treatment were used, the injury has not been able to heal back to its best state. Injury to internal organs, necrosis of nerves, etc. These are all things that current technology cannot completely cure. Although there is a body tissue regeneration technology that can replace the body, and Fold Yawu has also used it, the replaced body cannot be compared with his original body at all. Not only will there be rejection, but also extremely easy to age. Damn Andre, I want you to die. Saint Caligula's hatred of Andre is growing day by day, and he can't wait to tear Andre to pieces now. When the maid changed the medicine for Saint Caligula, the door of Saint Caligula's room opened. At this time, a man in a white suit waited for the maid to leave before walking to Saint Caligula. The man with a mask on his face was the new CP0 commander, White Eagle. The White Vulture said to Caligula, Holy Caligula, the Banshee and her men are captured by Andre. Caligula asked, Oh, are they all in the Seven Waters now? White Vulture replied, Yes, with Garp, Dragon, Crane, and some remnants of the rebels. Garp, Crane, they are all traitors, all of them are traitors. Caligula looked dark, and now he said to the White Vulture, Are those people honest now? The White Vulture nodded. The people closest to them are all under control and are now acting according to our orders. Ha ha ha, Caligula laughed a few times, then gave a high five and said, Very well, as long as these forces are controlled in our hands, we can have the chips to suppress Andre. Saint Caligula, I heard that the Banshees were sent to make peace with Andre, not just an assassination. Some of the old guys have already been scared by Andre, they just want to guarantee their current status and power. Caligula had a disdainful look on his face, and since he was injured, he began to learn to think about problems. However, even if he learns to use his brain, it is still difficult to change his arrogant character. As that meant to, the White Vulture made a wiping motion in front of Caligula. Let's keep them for now. After Andre is cleaned up, they won't be able to escape. When Caligula finished speaking, he stood up, and he had other things to do. Red Soil Continent, not far from Mariajoy, but very remote mountain crevice. This was originally where Tenryubito punished slaves and hid his secrets. Today, Saint Caligula is carrying out an astonishing experiment here. As long as the experiment is successful, Caligula will have invincible power. Of course, this is his personal opinion. In order to complete this experiment, a large number of devil fruit abilities were needed, and they were brought here and suffered brutal torture every day. Including Sengoku, although he doesn't know now what kind of terrifying nightmare he will face. Caligula finds time to come here at least once a day, and he pours all his hatred into it. How's the experiment going today? Caligula asked the researchers in charge here. These researchers were all captured by Caligula from all over the world, including fellow villagers of Vegapunk. We are in the process of debugging the instrument, and the next experiment will be ready soon. The researchers answered cautiously, for fear of annoyed Caligula, because since they came here to now, 1 or 2 people have annoyed Caligula for unknown reasons every day, and finally ended up being thrown into the meat grinder. Very well, that's the kind of efficiency. Caligula was satisfied with the researcher's answer, so he didn't choose to kill him. After about 10 minutes, the blood, minced meat, and visceral debris on the experimental table were cleaned up, and then a man whose mouth was blocked and his limbs locked by sea-stone handcuffs was pushed out. "Let's get started." Caligula squinted, anticipating the progress of the experiment. Immediately, more than 20 researchers in white coats began to inject various liquids and medicines into the man's body. The man's muscles suddenly swelled up and he began to struggle violently. This scene is undoubtedly very magical, because the man is a devil fruit person, and he can still make such a strong reaction when he is bound by sea-stone handcuffs. Injecting 150 milliliters of hemoglobin. Begin centrifugation. Place artificial black hole fruit. Power up, max power. Sizzle. As the 6 high-power generators began to rotate, the hands of the dials of the instruments in the laboratory began to shake violently. Pay attention to data collection. Another 100 milliliters of tranquilizers. The experimental body has symptoms of shock, and the body functions. Before he finished speaking, the man on the stage was like a crushed watermelon, which exploded in an instant. Blood, minced meat, and internal organs splattered throughout the laboratory, spilling on the tempered glass. Sitting behind the tempered glass, Caligula looked at the shattered apple-shaped devil fruit. Vivi frowned. "Go on, next one." ... "Did you see Kyle? I was taken away by the guards in the morning, I don't know where to go." "Won't kill him. It would be a relief if he was killed. There is a place for slaves to sleep in the cave, and Sengoku and a group of Marines are divided into one." At this time, the Kyle the Marines were talking about was actually a young rear admiral, who was only 31 years old this year, so he was considered young and promising. However, he was taken away this morning and has not come back yet. A Marine general approached Sengoku and asked, "Commander, why are they torturing us like this? If they want to kill us, just kill us." "Yeah, including Kyle, they've already taken 17 people away. What are they trying to do?" Sengoku is also thinking about this question in his heart, because after his observation, everyone who is brought here is all capable, including him, that is to say, this is not just a place to punish slaves. And among the pirates and revolutionary army next door, some people were taken away today, and they didn't come back. Damn, do you really have to wait to die? Marine generals were all handcuffed, given only a minimum diet every day, and had to do heavy work, so they didn't have the strength to resist at the moment. Chapter 1111 Return of the Soul. The problem before Sora is very serious. First of all, Marine, who was sent to encircle and suppress the Sea Kings, was attacked. The perpetrators were very powerful and their identities were unknown. This caused Marine to suffer unprecedented losses and was no longer able to surround and suppress the Sea Kings. Secondly, Sengoku and Marine and other generals who were dismissed and imprisoned disappeared. Although this matter was temporarily suppressed, the fire could not be contained in the paper, and sooner or later, it would go wrong. Marine suffered consecutive defeats in the New World, and recently suffered an unprecedented blow. The current Marine is already withered by the strong, the generals are scarce, and there is no morale. If the disappearance of Sengoku and other generals cannot be handled properly, then the remaining Dove and Hawk generals in Marine will also lose confidence in justice. How will they gather strength? Sora didn't know what to do. He was really envious of Garp, and being able to retire in a chic way was over. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door from outside the office. Sora pushed the documents on the table aside, and called out to the door, "Come in." The person who came in this time was not Ryokugyu or Momoshige, or any other general. The person who came in was a man in a white suit with a mask on his face. Typical CP0 dress, always defiant. "My name is White Eagle." Sora glanced at the White Eagle, and snorted softly. "CP0 feet's trustworthy officer, I have heard your name, but do you have anything to do with me? If you want our Marine to assist you in special missions, I am afraid that you are powerless now, and I have something else to do, please do it yourself." Sora didn't like the government's spy agents, and he didn't have a good face for CP0, the spy chief, who belonged to the world's nobles. He tilde, White Eagle VV Isho, then clapped his hands. Along with applause, 6 CP0 members in white suits filed in, all carrying a box in their hands. This box is empty, and it is specially used by Tenryubito to put devil fruits. Open. The white vulture stood up and ran his fingertips over the boxes. Magma fruit. Frozen fruit. Glitter fruit. Gravity fruit. The thread fruit. Dark fruit. Floating fruit. White vulture walked in front of Sora at this time. These 7 devil fruits will form a new force to make up for Marine's lack of combat power. What? Sora was really shocked this time. There is no pie in the sky. If there is a pie, be careful of the trap behind it. This reason is very clear, so he is extremely cautious. Ha tilde. White vulture said with a smile, if you don't want to accept it, then I will bring these things back, but with Marine's current status, if you can get these devil fruits, your combat power and morale will definitely increase. Indeed, these devil fruits can greatly improve morale. After all, magma fruit, frozen fruit, glitter fruit, gravity fruit are of great significance to Marine, and they carry Marine's soul of justice. If these devil fruits return, then Marine's morale must be boosted. How is it? Have you considered it? If it's too embarrassing, then I'll take it back. After the White Eagle finished speaking, he made a move to close the lids towards the agents. Wait. Sora gritted his teeth and stared at the white vulture. Although I don't know what conspiracy you have, Marine's soul of justice will never be extinguished, and it will not be trampled on. Oh, that's to take it. The white vulture grinned Isho, and then asked the agents to put down the devil fruit, while he himself patted Kong on the shoulder. Take care so much. Just as the white eagle took the person away with his forefoot, Sora's tears suddenly burst out of his eyes. He immediately hugged magma fruit, frozen fruit, glitter fruit, and gravity fruit, choking and sobbing. Akainu, Kuzan, Borsalino, Isho. The return of the devil fruit, the shock and impact on Sora, also infected all Marines. On this day, both the Marine generals and the sea soldiers' eyes were red and swollen. A bunch of idiots. On the deck of the battleship, Baiju's eyes were cold, and he took out a pocket watch. There was a photo on the pocket watch. The photo was a group photo of him and his family. Pushed away, revealing the photo of Foldyawu. Master, I will avenge you. Whether it's Caligula, Andre, or the world, it will regret losing you. ... New World. After a period of decadence, Luffy finally got back on his feet with the persuasion of Momonosuke. Because Luffy has a new goal, or a goal that must be achieved. Go to Laugh Tale, not only because of One Piece, but also because of Pluto. Only by obtaining these can we completely end the troubled world and atone for his sins. Naturally hopes that Luffy will cheer up, because it is impossible for him to regain Wano Kuni now, but this does not mean that he cannot realize the dream of an emperor. With Luffy, a free brainless thug, as long as he gets Pluto and One Piece, then he can recruit soldiers, overthrow the world government, kill Andre, and be the master of this world. However, the road is still very difficult. Momonosuke needs help, and he and Luffy alone cannot achieve this grand goal at present. So Momonosuke wanted an ally, and that ally had to be ambitious and stupid enough. There are 3 candidates for Momonosuke. The first candidate is the red-haired Shanks. He has the territory and strength of the 4 emperors. Although he is not ambitious, he is stupid enough. Based on this alone, who does not fool him? Buggy, the king of clowns. He and Shanks used to be comrades in arms who fought side by side. They are ambitious, but timid. Of course, this is Momonosuke's personal opinion. The third candidate is Vinsmoke Judge, the king of North Blue who had a short-lived imperial dream, and is now wandering in the New World. Although he is down and out, he still has top-notch science and technology in his hands and is also relatively easy to communicate with. Although Momonosuke is young, his stomach is full of bad water. As long as he controls Luffy, he will have enough capital to negotiate with these people and discuss the alliance. And now is the best time. Team Zero and the world government are busy cleaning up the riotous Sea Kings, and they have no time to pay attention to the small actions of other forces. As long as you can find all the red historical texts during this period, you can board the laugh tale. Chapter 1112 Give Me a Face. Sea Kings were rampant, and Buggy's fleet suffered heavy losses, which made Buggy very upset. That guy Andre, it's too much to hide Sea King silently. Buggy blamed Andre for all the damage, but he couldn't find Andre to pay it back. In fact, Buggy is now thinking about where to go. Keep fighting for One Piece, King of Pirates. Buggy knew that in this game, his chances of winning were getting slimmer. But giving up the fight for One Piece, King of Pirates will inevitably lose people's hearts, because many of those who follow Buggy are disgusted by Andre, or believe that following Buggy, they can compete with Andre for the world's pirates. Therefore, Buggy can't give up the hegemony, otherwise everything he has now will be in vain. But how to play this hegemony game? Andre has the Sea King in his hand, and the King of Heaven may also be in his hand. The three ancient weapons have already occupied two, each with devastating power. Unless you can get the Pluto, otherwise, there is no chance to compete at all. To get Pluto, you have to go to Laugh Tale, which means you have to beat Ace, Kid, Charlotte Linlin right now. Buggy is still calculating, he has a correct positioning and assessment of his own strength, and it is naturally impossible to win against Andre alone. Against Ace and Kid, there should be a chance to win, against Charlotte Linlin if so, it might be a little more troublesome. If only there were a few allies. Buggy was thinking about forming an alliance when Bazaji trotted over. King, the Straw Hat Luffies have entered our territory and sent you a letter. As Bazaki said, he handed the letter to Buggy. Letter. Buggy opened the envelope and read the content in his heart. Bazaji naturally turned his head to peek at the contents of the letter, and after seeing half of it, he pulled out his knife. The Straw Hats think who they are, and they want to make an alliance with us, even if they are so stubborn. Quote. Be quiet, what's the noise? Buggy frowned, slammed Bazaji, and then said to him, let the Straw Hats come in. Wong, do you really want to form an alliance with them? Bazaji's face was full of disbelief, but Buggy slapped him with a blank eye at this moment, telling him to shut up and do things obediently. Luffy and his party now have a total of 6 ships. Except for Luffy's Wanli Sunshine and Bartolomeo's Going Luffy predecessor, the other 4 are Wano Kuni warships, and they have almost no naval combat capabilities. Other hand, the Buggy Alliance, although the fleet suffered heavy losses due to the attack of the Sea Kings, there are now 11 ironclad ships, 47 three-masted sail battleships, and nearly 100 civilian and commercial modified ships of various types, although most of them are a rabble, but the scale is still spectacular. Wow, Buggy's fleet is really big, how did he do it? Luffy was also surprised that when his Straw Hat fleet was at its largest, it couldn't compare to the Buggy League. Momonosuke was beside Luffy, he was lying on the side of the boat, his eyes were shining, and he thought to himself, after using Buggy, he will take his fleet. Under the leadership of Bazaj, Luffy and his party came to Buggy's flagship King of the Clowns. Buggy's King of Clowns was built according to the proportion of the Going Jackson, and it also bought Shinmu Atom from the black market for a lot of money, which is considered to be a sister ship of the Jackson. Hello, Mr. Buggy. Momonosuke followed Luffy to the boat. After seeing Buggy, he took the initiative to say hello. Huh, who are you, kid? Buggy looked down at Momonosuke. Introduce himself. Luffy pulled up Momonosuke's bun and said, he's Momo, my friend. Okay, then you can find a place to sit. Buggy sat on the captain's throne and waved casually, serve the wine and serve the food. After a while, dozens of scoundrels were holding wine and meat, and the wine tables were filled one after another. No lights. Buggy said a few symbolic toasts, and Luffy's group started eating, just like refugees. Buggy's mouth twitched and sneered, I said you haven't eaten in a few days. There are Sea Kings everywhere these days, and I can only eat their meat, it's really not delicious. Luffy's Luffy's mouth was full, and he said in a cluttered voice, "Eat Sea King meat." Buggy shook his head noncommittally, and said nothing, waiting for the refugees to eat and drink. Luffy ate quickly and ate a lot. In more than 20 minutes, his stomach ate into a small tent, and then he patted his bulging belly and burped contentedly. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp and others also ate less, but their food intake was not as exaggerated as Luffy's. "Okay, you're full, then let's get down to business." Buggy put down the wine glass in his hand and asked Luffy, after arriving at Laugh Tale, what should One Piece and Hades do? The atmosphere suddenly became serious. Luffy winked at Buggy and muttered, "What's the difference?" Boom! Buggy slammed the wine case violently, and the wine glass and dishes on the shaken wine case trembled. "I said you guys are not here to play with me. Since you want an alliance, you must clearly divide your interests." Luffy said carelessly, "Then it's half of one person." "One and a half. You're here to play me." Buggy stood up suddenly. The deck was suddenly surrounded by pirates, and all around, the ships of the Buggy Alliance also surrounded, a large number of pirates armed with knives and guns, staring fiercely at Luffy's group. Gollum. Momonosuke swallowed nervously. This kind of big scene is just like facing the swordsman Yagayu Musashi, and it is a situation that will kill you if you are not careful. Kinemon and Kanjuro drew their knives each, guarding Momonosuke vigilantly. "Peach, didn't you say Buggy would join us? Why is it different from what you said?" Luffy also had a cold face at the moment, his fists rattling. Momonosuke was speechless. He had already told Luffy that it was up to him to get on the boat and talk about alliances. Just as the two sides were arguing, they saw a ship breaking through the waves and rushing over. "It's the red-haired ship." When they saw the pirate flag above, the people from the Buggy Alliance did not open up the slope to intercept it. Buggy frowned and asked, "Shanks, what are you doing here?" Shanks stood on the bow with his sword in one hand and shouted at Buggy, "Buggy, give me a face, and make an alliance with Luffy." Chapter 1113 Leave this to me. Shanks is willing to come out as a middleman, firstly because he has a good relationship with Luffy, and secondly because Andre is really going too far. First, a natural disaster was caused by the use of the King of Heaven, causing the East Blue and South Blue to suffer catastrophes and countless casualties. Not long ago, the Sea King was used to cause a disaster that continues to this day. If Andre is not defeated, then the world will be destroyed by Andre sooner or later. Destroy. Regarding this point, there are many people who recognize Shanks, and many pirates who dream of going to sea have joined them. Therefore, Shanks came out to be the middleman at this time, and the tone and weight of his speech were quite heavy. Buggy could not give Luffy face, or even kill Luffy's gang on the spot, but he couldn't help Shanks' face. After all, Shanks needs territory and territory, there are people and people, and there are ships and boats, and compared to most of the rabble in the Buggy Alliance, the Red Hair Pirates' top combat power is better than the Buggy Alliance. Okay, then join the Straw Hat Alliance for the time being. As for the distribution of benefits, let's talk about it in a few days. Buggy got down the slope without embarrassing himself. Shanks nodded in satisfaction, when he walked over to Luffy and patted him on the shoulder. "There's one judge left, this time I'll talk to him." "What? There's another judge?" Buggy's eyebrows twitched, her eyes widened, and she wasn't happy. This cake is already so big, and the matter of sharing the spoils has not yet been agreed. Now there is another one to share. How could he bear it? Shanks turned and replied, "The Germa 66 army of the Vinsmoke family are war experts and their technology can help us against Andre." Buggy snorted disdainfully. "Don't be too naive, Judge is not a reliable person. If you don't make an alliance with Judge, do you want to make an alliance with Charlotte Linlin? Not to mention that she has hundreds of people left now." As soon as Shanks opened his mouth, Buggy couldn't refute. Although there are still many small forces in the New World, these small forces are all hiding in Tibet, and they are attached to the banner of the Grand Alliance and the 4 emperors and 1 emperor, so they can form an alliance. There are actually only a handful of candidates. There is no doubt that Judge's fleet has a certain strength. There are more than 100 warships, more than 500 ships of various types, and more than 200,000 clones. They control the windless belt next to North Blue. Buggy rolled his eyes. After thinking about the pros and cons for a while, he said to Shanks, "All right, but about Judge's joining, I'll talk to him. You don't need to intervene." Shanks didn't have Buggy's shrewdness, and he didn't have as much scheming as he did. Now that Buggy was willing to negotiate, it made him feel that it was easy, so he agreed without hesitation. Was very nervous. Buggy is not a cunning guy. Let him contact Vinsmoke, it will only make them collude. At this time, Momonosuke quietly pulled Luffy's pants with his hand. "What's wrong, Peach?" Luffy lowered his head in confusion. Momonosuke whispered behind Luffy, "Luffy, you can't let Buggy talk." "Ah, why?" Luffy scratched the back of his head, not understanding. "You pig brain, big fool." Momonosuke secretly scolded Luffy for being stupid, but when he was about to persuade Luffy, he saw Buggy looking at him. Buggy's eyes narrowed into slits, and his eyes were cold, with a hint of killing intent. Although it was only for a moment, Buggy turned his head and talked to Shanks about the follow-up cooperation, but Momonosuke could feel that Buggy already wanted to kill himself. These big pirates are really not easy to deal with. Momonosuke had a deeper understanding of pirates like Buggy. Ah. Diaresis the Zero team lives in the city, and the martial arts arena. The dust was flying, and the fist was breaking the wind. Kid and Sabo have been playing from dawn to now. Not because of the conflict between the two, but simply to find out their own shortcomings from each other. Both have their own characteristics. Kid has skill, but prefers strength. Sabo has strength, but prefers to use skill. What Kid and Sabo learned came from Andre, and their understanding of power and combat also came from Andre. Although the master led the door and the practice was personal, there are no two identical leaves in the world. Two people can see their own shadows from each other, and they can also find the direction of breakthrough. On the rostrum of the martial arts arena, Makino and Hancock also led the crowd to watch. As Shock Crocodile, who stayed behind, also sat in their respective seats. At this time, Pandet walked over. "Master Kid, Master Sabo, news from Vinsmoke that the three forces of Red Hair, Buggy, and Straw Hat have formed an alliance, and they are still trying to win him over." After hearing Pandet's report, Kid and Sabo stopped each other and stopped together. Marlene and Mana brought towels and hot tea. The same goes for Koala and Reiju. Kid and Sabo wiped their sweat and drank some hot tea to quench their thirst. Then they waved to Shock Crocodile and others. All the captains in the seats got up and leaned towards them. While Makino and Hancock left with the women, men and women were very tacit with each other and did not interfere with each other. Only Reiju was still a little uneasy. Before leaving, he turned back and forth and looked in Sabo's direction. After all the women were gone, Sabo spit out the tea powder on the ground and snorted coldly, "My father-in-law is really cunning." "Yeah, it seems that he is still ambitious." Kid nodded, agreeing with Sabo's point of view. The thief shouts to catch the thief, Vinsmoke's best trick. In the past, they created regional conflicts in certain countries, triggered wars, and made a lot of money from wars. Whether it's the government army or the rebel army, whoever gives the money, they take it. Take the best interests. Comrade Crocodile has been in a similar business in the past, so he has a certain understanding of the Vinsmoke family. Isn't it enough to just kill them? Bills sounded like a drum. Barbarossa shook his head and said, "They are now taking advantage of us to deal with the Sea Kings and quietly make some small moves, but we still have no time to do it." Sabo was also a little embarrassed. Luca, Shadow, and Cook were sent to Tez again, and together with those who were sent to clean up the Sea Kings, we really don't have many people left behind now. After Kid listened to everyone's words, he asked Sabo, "Do you want to tell the master about this?" Sabo smiled bitterly. "Father, he doesn't even care about Tenryubito and the world government, will he pay any attention to them?" Kid clenched his fists at this time and said, "If that's the case, then I'll leave this matter to my Avengers to deal with. I've long been disgusted by the Straw Hats." Chapter 1114 As Fast as the Wind, Invaded as Fire. Andre was very impressed by the Fengwo forest, so Kid was influenced by him, doing things as fast as the wind and attacking as fierce as fire. In the city, Kid won't be dragging his feet since he promises to deal with Luffy, Buggy, and others. That afternoon, Kid left the hometown with the Avengers, set off to Buggy's territory, and attacked Buggy and Luffy directly. However, because of the Battle of Cake Island, Kid's Avengers were not badly damaged, so Sabo ordered Tessero to assist Kid. Tessero is not as beautiful as it used to be, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is miserable. And because of the Neptune things, the business in the entertainment city was bleak. Now Sabo ordered Tessero to assist Kid and attack Buggy and Luffy. Isn't that trying to embarrass him? "How much cash do we have left?" Tessero asked Mr. Tanaka with a headache. Mr. Tanaka took out a small notebook and repeated the calculations. "Now the banks have been ordered to close by the world government, and the cash we can use is only about 1.5 billion Baileys." 1.5 billion Bailey. Tessero suddenly felt a headache. He used to be a local tyrant. Don't live a life of spending money, but now he is stumped by the money, sell a part of going on the black market, and then recruit thousands of masters, assist Kid. Quote. "Understood, I'll make arrangements now." Mr. Tanaka turned around, his figure gradually became transparent, and he disappeared into the room. At the same time that Tessero got the news and started recruiting temporarily, so did Buggy. As his competitor, Buggy always pays attention to the movements of Kid and others. "Now I heard that Kid is leading people to kill his own territory." Don't think about it, Buggy knows that something is going to happen this time. Although Buggy was already mentally prepared, how to fight with Kid still needs to be studied. After all, Kid was Andre's son. If Kid was killed, wouldn't Andre kill him? At least, Buggy didn't dare to have too much conflict with Andre now. But after hearing that Kid came alone, and the 7 main teams of Team Zero didn't come, Buggy was secretly relieved. Since Buggy can conclude that this time it was Kid's own initiative, it's very likely that Andre doesn't know about it. If Andre really wanted to clean up Buggy, he would have sent out at least 3 main teams. But then again, Kid is not easy to deal with. Let's not talk about how he suppressed Kaido tactically, just saying that he turned the tide on Cake Island, which proves his courage and strength. Seeing that the war was about to start, Buggy called all the captains in the alliance for a meeting. At the meeting, Buggy was the first to ask Brad Mantley. "Mantley, how would you fight this?" Mantley glanced at Buggy, then at the captains of the various seats. To be honest, Mantley doesn't really want to speak at this kind of meeting, because the seats are mixed. Although some are also pirates with a reward of over 100 million, but their strength is really too scum. Of course, it doesn't matter if the strength is scum, and there are those stupid people who will only follow and kill indiscriminately. Sure enough, as soon as Buggy asked Mantley for his opinion, the captains started booing like a wet market. "Mantley, you should speak quickly, you are dumb." "Yeah, I've been waiting for you for a long time." "You must have been frightened." ... A bunch of brainless idiots. Although Mantley disliked this kind of atmosphere, he was still in the Buggy Alliance, and as a member, he still had to speak. Kid went through the Battle of Cake Island, and the combat power he could send can be calculated. Except for him, there are Killer, Cavendish, Uroge, Hawkins, and Drake. If we want to control the scale of the war, we only need to seriously injure 2 or 3 of them, especially Killer. He and Kid are close friends. If he is in danger, then Kid will stop fighting. Quote. At this moment, a naive black man stood up. His face was like Kurozumi, a typical stupid black rough. "Why can't we just kill them? There are so many of us, can't we beat only 1,000 people left?" "The Avengers." "Yeah, how many of them are left? How could they be our opponents? We are 20 times as many as them, and one spit could drown them." "Anyway, The boss and the red-haired alliance are going to deal with Andre, so let's just kill his son Jichi and strengthen our momentum. The more Mantley listened, the more he wanted to laugh. This group of idiots dared to say that they wanted to kill Kid. Not to mention the strength of Kid. Just because of Kid's identity, is it the kind of person who can kill if he wants to? Buggy's expression was no longer natural, but he didn't show weakness in front of his hands, but said calmly, "It's all quiet, all quiet. Actually Mantley is right. After all, I've known Andre for decades. My son is like my nephew. Can I kill him?" Wong, you are really kind-hearted. Yes, this is the demeanor that seniors should have. Bazaki's group of captains immediately stood up to compliment Buggy. People like Bazaki are Buggy's brain-damaged fans, so no matter what Buggy says, they will unconditionally believe it. Buggy is naturally happy to enjoy the blind worship and compliments of the younger brothers, but he coughed twice, waved his hand, and signaled everyone to be quiet. But, based on my observation of Sabo can't just let Kid deal with us. There must be someone to help him, so. Before Buggy could finish speaking, Luffy was heard shouting. Going to war with Andre? Why didn't you call me? Luffy was yelling outside, quite loud. When Buggy heard it, his scalp felt numb. Buggy's men naturally couldn't stop Luffy, so Luffy quickly appeared in front of Buggy. Buggy, we're allies now, why didn't you notify me about Andre's call? Luffy questioned Buggy angrily. Buggy was about to make up 2 sentences to kill Luffy when Mantley winked at him. Although it was a small gesture, Sanji who came with Luffy also noticed it. Buggy suddenly realized, and said to Mantley, "You come and talk to him." Mantley then stood up and said to Luffy, "We're in charge of taking on the Kid, and you're in charge of their reinforcements." Kid? Avenger Kid? Luffy asked excitedly. That's right. Mantley sneered inwardly, he just said it on purpose, he didn't expect Luffy to really get caught. Luffy patted Shang's chest and assured, "Then the Kid will be handed over to me." Chapter 1115 Is Luffy's brain normal? Frowned. Although he knew Luffy's character very well, it still made him very uncomfortable to be tricked by Mantley so easily. After all, the strength of the Avenger Kid is not weak. If they fight, even if they can win, it will be a tragic victory. Of course, the person who wished to scold Luffy was definitely Momonosuke. Because there are only a few people left in Luffy now, including Bartolomeo's people, they add up to 100 people. Therefore, against the Avengers, it is necessary to mobilize the Kazuki army. The Kazuki family was picked from the captives, so let's not talk about loyalty, that's absolutely outrageous, and let alone the combat power, it can't match the pirates of the Avengers. The most important thing is that these thousands of people are Momonosuke's last family background. If he doesn't have these family backgrounds, what else does he have? It's just that Momonosuke can't break up with Luffy yet, so he can only bite the bullet and fight Kid with Luffy. In addition to his flagship Gemini this time, Kid also brought 6 warships with a total army of 1,400 people. Although a lot of people have been lost in Cake Island, people can recruit again, and after the battle experience, the people who survive are the elite of the elite. And why the Zero team is so strong is because of the battle experience, the elite who climbed out of the pile. Therefore, although Kid only brought 7 ships and 1,400 people this time, he is confident that he can defeat Luffy and Buggy. At this moment, there was the sound of a helicopter in the air. It turns out that Baby 5 and Buffalo are back. Some of the cadres of the Don Quixote family, such as Baby 5 and Buffalo, were recruited by Andre and joined the capable core of Team Zero. Because he had to deal with Buggy and Luffy, Sabo also transferred some ability people from the ability person army to help Kid. However, including Baby 5, Buffalo and others, Kid only picked 5 people, because in his opinion, it would not take such a big battle to deal with a mere Buggy and Luffy. Of course, there are many people who hold this kind of thinking. Not to mention the inside of the Zero team, even the Avengers think so. Cavendish even thought that he was alone, and it was enough to bring 200 people. Although it is a bit overconfident, even conceited, it shows that everyone disdains Buggy and Luffy. I'll be the vanguard later and chop off Luffy's head. Cavendish has learned about Luffy's fruit power, and he believes that under his holy sword, Luffy has only one way to go. Pat, pat. Baby 5 and Buffalo landed on the deck one after another, and respectfully said to Kid, "Master Kid, we have just inspected, the Buggy Alliance is frequently mobilizing ships, but there is no plan to fight, but the Straw Hats have already left the port. Is the Straw Hat going to take the initiative to fight?" Kid glanced down at the chart. "How many ships and how many people?" Baby 5 replied, 6 ships, estimated to have more than 1,000 people. Kid asked in surprise, "Is there only 6 ships and more than 1,000 people?" Baby 5 said affirmatively, "Yes, the Straw Hats, Bartolomeo, and the Kazuki army have not found the Happo Navy or other pirate flags. It seems that the news is true, they have disbanded. I thought we didn't take them seriously, but I didn't expect them to take us seriously either." Kid sneered, then smashed the table with a punch. Whoops, things on the desktop crashed onto the deck. "Cavendish. Ready to work for you at any time. You're the vanguard and grab the Straw Hats' attention. Drake, Hawkins, Uroge, you blocked their escape route and attacked them from 3 sides at the same time." "Yes, boss." "Straw Hat Luffy, you're really courting death." Kid snorted and ended the meeting. Cavendish took people to his own ship, and he had no extra words to boost his morale. After a few simple explanations, he left the fleet and attacked the Straw Hats murderously. Drake, Hawkins, Uroge and others, each with their own men on board, and go to the designated area for blockade and interception according to their respective tasks. As soon as he came, there were 3 ships left by Kid's side. But Kid doesn't care either. After all, in the New World now, there is no force worthy of his attention. ... Cavendish's boat was as saucy as he was, and Usopp spotted it at a glance, even from a distance. Usopp stood on the mast and shouted at the bottom, "Luffy, the first team of the Avengers, your son Cavendish, we are about 3 nautical miles away." "How many ships do they have?" Sanji asked first. Usopp replied, "Just 1 ship, Cavendish's ship." "Just 1 boat? How is that possible?" Sanji frowned, then hurriedly asked, "Are there other boats around?" "Is there? I don't think so." Usopp was stunned for a moment, then took a 360 degrees view of the telescope. After about a few minutes, 3 ships appeared in 3 directions. After seeing the flags on the ships, he shouted, "Really, it is Uroge, the red flag Drake, and Hawkins the magician." It seems that except Kid and Killer, the 4 main forces of the Avengers are all out, and Cavendish's ship is faster than 3 people. Sanji pondered for a moment, before reminding Luffy that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because Kid divided his troops into 4 groups, and Kid himself didn't move, it was clear that he didn't take Luffy in his eyes, so as long as he concentrated his strength and defeated Cavendish first, then turned back to defeat Uroge and others one by one, and the battle was won. But before Sanji was happy, Luffy hummed angrily, "Kid actually looks down on me." "Luffy, what are you talking about?" Sanji wondered a little. "Zoro, you go deal with Cavendish. Sanji, you go get Uroge. Usopp, you go beat Hawkins. Brook, you deal with Drake." Luffy sat on the captain's throne, looking like a commander, giving orders there. Nani? He didn't understand whether Luffy was really dumb. This was obviously because Cavendish was too conceited. As long as he managed the time difference, he could easily win. But can Luffy's thinking be measured by normal people? Luffy feels that he is the main general of the army. Since he is going to fight against Kid, it is also a battle between the main general, and the king against the king. Chapter 1116 Sanji vs Cavendish. Luffy's character is like this: once something is decided, it will never change. In this regard, Momonosuke has a deep understanding. But now Momonosuke is thinking about how to preserve his Kazuki army as much as possible, Because facing the wolf-like Avengers, the Kazuki army is really under great pressure. Cavendish, on the other hand, picked up the pace, and he was about to take down Luffy's group first. After all, Luffy's group is really lucky. Since his debut, his reputation and bounties have crushed him. This made Cavendish, as a senior, very unhappy. Slayman, Gabriel, Villette, Bartos, Beati, Eggert. Cavendish called one by one, and every time a name was called, a pirate stood up. Slayman is a man with short black hair, a short scar on the bridge of his nose, a high hat with skulls and gorgeous flying wings on his head, and a black cloak. He is good at using a long handle to hold a knife. He kills people without mercy, and is called the battlefield executioner by the Avengers. Gabriel, Snake Fruit, King Cobra form, not only strong, but also silver white hair, white fair skin, noble temperament, making him the most trusted subordinate of Cavendish. Villette, who is thin and has the ability to corrode fruit, can corrode any metal. Bartos, small in stature, but good at assassination, used to be a bounty hunter and killer. These people are Cavendish's most capable warriors. At this time, even in the New World, they are pirates with a high reputation. Children, cut off the heads of the Straw Hats. Oh! Slayman and others cheered in unison. Kill. Cavendish then rode on his white horse, Faruru, just to be handsome. Fire. Slayman and others knew that Cavendish likes to pretend to be a force, so they ordered it for him. As soon as the cannon sounded, the Gui Gongzi instantly fired dozens of shells. Since the design and construction of the Gaigongzi were completed in West Blue, the entire warship adhered to the design concept of West Blue. It has the characteristics of multi-caliber naval guns, large tonnage, and thick armor. Of course, the shortcomings are also obvious. In order to increase the speed of the ship, the shells and supplies that can be carried on the ship are relatively small. If there is no supply ship to follow, the continuous combat capability will be poor. But just now, the first wave of shelling from far away gave the Straw Hats a surprise. Shish _. The shells pierced and fell harshly, some directly hit the hull, and some fell into the sea, setting off waves more than 10 meters high. Boom! With the roar, the front deck of Wanli Sunshine began to catch fire. Chopper immediately organized people to start putting out the fire. However, the fire of the Wanli Sunshine has not been extinguished, and the predecessor of the Going Luffy is also on fire. The difference between the ships is too obvious. The ships of the Straw Hats are not equipped for naval battles at all. The number of artillery pieces is too small to organize a decent counterattack. The boat of the Kazuki army is no different from the one made of paper. With just a few pieces of broken iron, one cannonball can pass through a big hole. Before the start of the battle, Slayman and the others already felt that the victory was in their hands. After all, the artillery battle in the naval battle is also an important part. If the artillery battle has an absolute advantage in the battle, or completely crushes the opponent, then the opponent will definitely be finished, and vice versa. Fortunately, the main body of Luffy's 10,000 Miles of Sunshine was built with the Divine Tree Atom. Even if it was hit by more than 10 shells in a row, it was not sunk. Damn, let's go on like this. Let's not say that we will defeat them separately, even a Cavendish can make us sink into the sea. Sanji gritted his teeth, then directly used the moon step to fly into the air and rushed towards Cavendish's boat. Curly eyebrows, those guys are mine. Zoro was not to be outdone at this moment and chased after him. And Luffy didn't care so much at the moment. I saw that he poured himself a lot of water in one breath, becoming an out-and-out water Luffy, and then started to put out the fires on the ships with water guns. Yo, did this kill you? Cavendish had spotted Sanji and Zoro on the deck. Boss, let's deal with them. Let them know how terrifying our strength is. Slayman and Gabriel clenched their weapons tightly, with grins on their faces. From the looks of them, they didn't pay attention to Sanji and Zoro at all. Devil's Foot. Sanji's feet first wrapped around armament hockey, then burst into flames and kicked Gabriel in the face. Gabriel is a zone devil fruit power user, especially in the form of a brutal king cobra in the snake and snake fruit, so he didn't take Sanji in his eyes at all, and slashed with the sword in his hand. However, the moment the knife touched Sanji's calf, Gabriel felt a huge force attack. In the blink of an eye, the tiger's mouth cracked, the sword let go, and the sole of his foot kicked Gabriel's cheek fiercely. And Gabriel was kicked out and fell heavily into the cabin. The green algae head must be resolved quickly. Zoro after he knocked out Gabriel. You don't need to tell me, I also know. Zoro held a pair of knives, slashing and slashing, sometimes stabbing, and with the strength of one person, he actually suppressed the four of Slaymen. Damn, to be so embarrassed by two little scoundrels. Cavendish was furious, and then pulled out the holy sword Durandal from his waist and attacked Sanji violently. Sanji's eyes narrowed, and then he repeatedly backflipped to avoid Cavendish's attack. Don't try to dodge, and you can't dodge this uncle's attack. Beautiful sword blue bird. Cavendish immediately launched a powerful straight stab attack on Sanji. Since the move was very fast, an airflow would be generated around the sword during the stab, making it even more powerful. Sanji did not hit hard, but led Cavendish to the side of the ship step by step, and then a single leg hook hooked the rope on one side of the ship, and swayed to the other side with the power of the rope. Cunning fellow, don't run away. Cavendish was even more annoyed when he missed the thorns, and then turned over and jumped, and stood above Sanji in an upside-down position, and then began to perform a gorgeous spinning slash at Sanji, shining like a ballet. Beautiful sword Swan Lake. In the face of Cavendish's gorgeous slash, Sanji no longer escaped this time. Devil's Foot. Memories of Hell. Chapter 1117 Crazy Second Personality. At this time, flames of anger erupted from Sanji's whole body, and the latter one forcibly avoided Cavendish's slash. Just as Cavendish was about to change his moves, Sanji's knee had already slammed into him. The change in offense and defense was too sudden. Fortunately, Cavendish is not the kind of target to be ravaged at will, so after being defeated, he immediately pulled his sword back and blocked himself in front of him. Dang! Sanji's knee slammed into the sword, the huge force on his knee made Cavendish's mouth go numb, and the hand holding the sword trembled. However, this is just the beginning. Sanji is very good at fighting technique, and his skills in fighting technique, especially leg technique, are far better than Luffy's. Therefore, even if it is blocked by Cavendish, it will not affect, because the follow-up attacks can be described as violent storms, non-stop. An inch long and an inch strong, an inch short, an inch dangerous. At this time, Cavendish was approached with a sword, but Sanji had the upper hand and took the initiative, and there was no chance to counterattack. And Sanji obviously knew this, so he only used 7 points of force to move his legs, leaving 3 points to change his moves, completely controlling the attacking rhythm. Although it is an expert to watch the doorway, and a layman to watch the fun, but now whether it is an expert or a layman, everyone knows that Cavendish has fallen into a hard fight. If he can't find a chance to fight back, then his tiger's mouth will definitely not be able to withstand the force and crack. Damn, actually, it made me lose face in front of so many people. Cavendish clenched his gums, the corners of his mouth overflowed with blood from anger, the creeping, moving blue veins on his forehead, and his bloodshot eyeballs were all telling Cavendish's subordinates how angry their boss was now. And when Cavendish was angry, the consequences were very serious. What is this guy muttering? Sanji didn't know why, but he didn't pay attention to it, because he could feel that Cavendish's resistance and reaction speed were slowing down, and the number of hits by him was gradually increasing. It proves that Cavendish is already at the end of the game. As long as he works harder, Cavendish will definitely lose. Devil's Foot, the most advanced minced meat. Devil's Foot, lamb shot. Devil's Feet, neck crush. Under Sanji's smooth, almost impeccable continuous kicks, Cavendish's mouth cracked, and the sword in his hand finally landed with a clang. Devil Wind Feet, beast meat shot. Sanji was spinning at high speed in the air. On the one hand, he continuously kicked kicking skills with red flames, and each kick hit Cavendish firmly. Bang bang bang. There was a solid muffled sound, and Cavendish was kicked out and fell to the ground. Puff. A mouthful of blood spit out, Cavendish lay on the deck, pressing his hands on the deck, trying to stand up. Cavendish, your battle is over. Sanji snorted coldly. He didn't commit a dead hand to Cavendish, because he didn't intend to be an enemy of Kid, to be exact, to be a deadly enemy. The arrogant boy. Although Cavendish was very embarrassed, his facial features were distorted at this time, and his expression could only be described as hideous. Do you want to continue the fight? Sanji glanced at Cavendish suspiciously, because Zoro had seriously injured other Cavendish subordinates at this time, and with the results of his side, the battle was basically over. Damn boy, I am a gorgeous incarnation, how dare you make me so embarrassed, unforgivable, unforgivable. Cavendish began to ponder. Just when Sanji thought that Cavendish would do something amazing, Cavendish fell asleep. What's wrong with this guy? Passed out. No, he fell asleep. Sanji could already confirm that he heard Cavendish's snoring. Run for your life, you've angered the boss. Yes, the boss is crazy, even Lord Killer dare not provoke. At this time, Slayman and others were referring to Cavendish's second personality, known as Rommel's Itachi. In fact, Cavendish's second personality is controllable, and Cavendish is aware of the existence of his second personality. But it had to be after Cavendish was completely asleep. And Cavendish's second personality is terrifying, has a strong killing ability, and has twice the swordsmanship than Cavendish, who was already a swordsman genius. However, because the second personality, Itachi's murderousness is too strong, it is completely a murderous approach, and it is extremely crazy and almost irrational, so it was suppressed by Cavendish. Cavendish was really angry at this moment, so he took the initiative to fall asleep to wake up the second personality. Sure enough, after the appearance of the weasel, he let out bursts of insane laughter. Ahahaha. I didn't expect you to take the initiative to wake me up, ahahaha. Don't worry, I will help you kill all these people. Ahahaha. The hysterical laughter seemed to be insane, causing Slayman and the others to shiver. It seems that I really can't release water on you. Sanji suddenly regretted it. He knew that Cavendish had such a terrifying second personality, so he would have knocked him unconscious. Release the water. Little devil, you are so shameless. Cavendish grinned, and then a shaver picked up the sword and slashed dozens of slashes in one breath. The violent slash struck instantly, and Sanji directly used shave to make a large displacement. While dodging the attack, he approached Cavendish at a very fast speed. He wanted to repeat the old trick and tried to attack Cavendish at close range. Do you think I'm that sissy, so useless? Itachi laughed wildly, and saw that he waved the sword in his hand without any moves, and suddenly the violent sword energy overflowed vertically, horizontally, forming an impenetrable area. Sanji knew that he couldn't get close, so he had to retreat and dodge, but Itachi pounced at this moment and slashed at Sanji frantically with his sword. Every time the sword was used, the sword energy almost wiped against Sanji's skin. After dozens of swords, nearly 100 wounds, large and small, were cut all over Sanji's body, and blood flowed. How's it going, kid? Now you know I'm totally different from that sissy. With a savage laughter, Itachi was about to slash at Sanji's face with a sword, but was blocked by Zoro's sword in time, and the 3 generations of ghosts cut Itachi's lower abdomen diagonally upwards. Suddenly, like a broken faucet, blood spurted. However, instead of paying attention to his injury, Itachi slashed Zoro's shoulder with a sword, and the blade sank deep into the flesh. Chapter 1118. Use the gun as a gun. Hey, did you make a mistake? What is Cavendish doing? Hawkins picked up his binoculars and looked out onto the deck of the Tallboy, where a bloody fight was taking place. The participants in the brawl are Cavendish, Zoro, and Sanji. Although judging from the injuries of the 3, Cavendish was more seriously injured, but from the expressions of the three, Cavendish looked like a beast, a bloodthirsty, mad beast. At this time, the cadre around Hawkins asked, "Boss, do we want to rescue them? Or should we directly attack the Straw Hats Wanli Sunshine? Go save Sao Bao. If you die, you will be skinned and broken by Kid." Hawkins is in awe of Kid, and Kid always implements Andre's philosophy, one prosperous, no one lost, so Hawkins must not sit idly by and watch Cavendish die in battle. Turn the rudder to the right and move closer to your son. Also speak to Drake and Yoroj on the phone and let them judge the situation for themselves. After Hawkins gave orders in succession, he brought people ready for the battle. Hawkins turned abruptly, and Usopp saw this scene. "Great, Magician Hawkins has turned, we have enough time to put out the fire and prepare for the battle." Usopp excitedly shouted to Brook and others. But is this really good news? There was no joy on Momonosuke's face. On the contrary, he was a little nervous and even a little pessimistic. Because a single Cavendish contained Sanji and Zoro in the two battles, if they faced the monster, the magician and the red flag, would there still be a fight in this battle? The most important thing is the gap between the ships. Compared with the strong ships and sharp guns of the Avengers, Momonosuke feels that his ships are here to die. At this time, Momonosuke peeked at Luffy, only to find that Luffy was sitting motionless on the captain's throne, neither nervous nor panicked. He was really calm. However, just as Momonosuke retracted his gaze, the cannon sounded again. This time it was Red Flag Drake's ship that fired. Drake felt that Hawkins would be enough to aid Cavendish, so he decided to defeat Luffy directly and end the fight. The main gun is raised, the inclination angle is 42 degrees, and the 3-round rapid fire. Fire. After all, Drake had been in the Marine, so he had a lot of experience in the use of naval guns, and now he ordered the minions under his command to bombard the ships of the rotten Straw Hats with naval cannons. At this time, Luffy finally opened his mouth and said to Usopp, "Usopp, fight back with the Frank cannon." The Frank cannon was originally designed and built by Frank. It is a super caliber and powerful naval gun to make up for the lack of naval guns on the Wanli Sunshine. However, the Frank cannon still has some shortcomings. It is the trouble of loading the shells, and the second is the scarcity of shells. From the beginning to the end, Luffy and others have only used them 3 times, and the remaining shells are only 2. It was Cavendish who didn't know how to use cannons. Luffy wouldn't use Frank cannons, but his opponent was Drake. Except that the first round of test shots missed the Wanli Sunshine, the next 3 rounds of artillery hits at least hit more than 10 shells, which has already made the Wanli Sunshine somewhat overwhelmed. If Drake continues to be bombarded, the Wanli Sunshine will definitely sink, and there is no possibility of a battle. Understood. Usopp immediately jumped off the main mast, stretched out his hands nimbly, entered the cabin swiftly, and said to Brook, "Brook, come and help me take off my gun jacket." Okay. Brook hurriedly grabbed the cable, jumped overboard, and pulled off the tarp. Bang bang, cannonball reloading. Damn it, let you try the power of Frank's cannon too. Usopp breathed calmly, began to adjust the sight distance, and aimed. But this scene was all under Drake's observation, and Drake's subordinate laughed even more, as the Straw Hat planning to fire back. According to the information, the cannonballs of the Straw Hats should be almost used in Zou and Wano Kuni. Otherwise, when Cavendish shelled them, why didn't they fight back? I still have to think about it. It must be the last shell, and I want to fight my luck. The minions are confident, which is a good thing. Drake didn't mind either. Of course, he didn't take Luffy and others into his eyes. You must know that in front of a professional marine, pirates don't even want to take advantage of the gun battle. However, is this really the case? It is true that most of the pirates are not good at long-range attacks from naval guns to ships, but most do not mean all. Example, the father and son of Usopp and Usopp, they all have experience in sniping, and the naval gun is just an enlarged version of the sniper rifle to them. At this time, Usopp had already aimed at Drake's ship. Although the Wanli sunshine shook violently due to the enemy's artillery fire, the front sight of Frank's cannon swayed around, but Usopp had his own method. Hit the target. Huh. With a light breath, observation haki made Usopp's mind 100% focused. Boom. A loud cannon sounded. The 2-meter-long shell exited the gun chamber, and the nearly 1-meter pointed shell broke through the wind and flew towards Drake's ship. The minions on the side of the ship could even see the scorching red on the pointed shells, like a red-hot branding iron. How is that possible? Under the unbelievable gaze of the pirates, the shells hit the powder depot below the ship's deck. Boom. Then, a huge explosion sounded, and the fire shot into the sky, and the fire engulfed the entire ship in an instant. Drake on the deck was also engulfed by the blazing fire in an instant. Ah! Help! Puff, puff! The pirates who were on fire jumped into the sea to survive. At this time, Drake had already used Moonstep to soar into the sky, but he looked very embarrassed now, not to mention the clothes on his body, even his hair and eyebrows were burnt out by the flames. Yeah. Amazing Usopp. Usopp did a great job. Both Chopper and Brook ran into the cabin excitedly, hugged Usopp excitedly, and threw him into the air. But Usopp in the air didn't have time to laugh proudly, and soon, his smile froze, because he saw Kid's Gemini and the 2 battleships beside it. Chapter 1119 The Treasure of the King Copycat. Usopp found Kid appeared. Kid and his party on the Gemini star were also paying attention to the battle situation. Killer put down the binoculars in his hand, Vivi frowned, and said, "Kid, it seems that we underestimated the Straw Hats. Their combat power is not weak." "Well, I admit that I underestimated them, but so what?" Kid put his arms around Shang, his expression unchanged, and the expression on his face remained calm. Even if the situation is 10 times and 100 times worse, he will not be affected, because since his debut, he has seen strong winds and waves, and faced countless powerful enemies. What's more, his master is Edward Andre, the strongest man in the world. Killer was very familiar with Kid and knew that the battle in front of him had not shaken him, so he asked, "What about next? Are you going to shoot them directly with artillery?" Kid shook his head and said in a cold voice, "No need, just take the boat and fight. I will crush their pirate dream with my own hands." I see. Killer knew what Kid wanted to do, and immediately ordered the ships to get ready. The so-called preparation is not the preparation for the bombardment, but the pre-war preparation specially formulated for the Kid. Following Killer's order, the minions quickly carried out boxes of swords. Although these swords are not world-class famous swords, the selected materials and forging techniques are extremely strict and sophisticated. Of course, in addition to these sharp weapons, there are also 24 cases with gold rims and precious stones that stand out. These boxes are from Juchung and are given to Kid by Makino. Because this time Kid went to Buggy and Luffy in person, Makino directly asked the treasure house to open, and took out 24 famous swords from the tributes that Andre collected over the years and the various forces, among which there were 4 big swords that were recorded in the book. Kuaisho and 17 good and quick knives, although the other 3 are not on the record, they are also rare famous swords in the world. These are Kid's weapons, and Andre specially prepared, always wanted to give Kid, and also gave Kid a move name, called Treasure of the King. In addition, Andre also specially customized 4 long and thick chains made of meteoric iron for Kid, named Skylocks. Kid doesn't know Andre's intentions and spoofs, but these weapons can be extremely powerful when combined with his fruit ability. If combined with the strength of armament Haki's enhanced weapons, and observation Haki's target locking, the power will be at least more than ordinary, improved more than 10 times. It's just that the so-called lock of the sky is not used by Kid very well. "Kid, what is this for?" Luffy looked at the boxes of unboxed weapons, not understanding Kid's intentions. "Be careful, this is the Avenger Kid, Andre's apprentice." Usopp was nervous, his hand holding the sniper rifle trembled faintly, sweat beaded in his palm, soaking the butt of the gun. Although he has never played against Kid, the name of the person, the shadow of the tree, even if Kid is not mentioned as Andre's apprentice, just the brilliant achievements of Kid over the years can make people daunting, let alone fighting him. Brooke said in a deep voice, and there is also a Euroge. Among the 4 masters under Kid's command, the most difficult guy to deal with. Then I'll deal with Euroge with Kanjuro. Kinemon volunteered at this moment. As soon as Kinemon said that, Momonosuke's eyes widened. Himiao, you go to deal with Euroge, who Himiao protects me. Besides, can you two be Euroge's opponents? At this moment, Momonosuke probably thought so, but before he could stop Kinemon, Luffy said, well, you and Brook and Chopper will deal with Euroge together. The analysis of the combat power displayed by Cavendish and Hawkins, Luffy knew that Euroge's strength was definitely not bad. Moreover, Euroge is a supernova of the same generation as Luffy. At present, he also has at least Vice Admiral, or Quasi-Admiral, or even higher combat power. Then who will protect me? Momonosuke's face turned pale all of a sudden. My lord, we will try our best to protect you. The Kazuki army samurai behind him immediately came out to show their loyalty. You guys have an egg. There are thousands of grass and mud horses galloping past in Momonosuke's heart. Luffy said to Momonosuke at this time, Momomo, you stay in the cabin and wait for the good news of our victory. Stay in the cabin. Momonosuke was stunned, and he couldn't help recalling the image of the Drake ship exploding and being engulfed in flames, and at the same time, he made up for himself. Okay, everyone get ready, the victory of this battle belongs to us. Luffy roared, raising his arms to boost morale. Oh, Usopp, Brook and others reluctantly responded loudly. Senior Luffy will win. Bartolomeo was still high-pitched. Looking at the Wanli Sunshine and the going Luffy, which were not retreating but advancing, and speeding toward him, Killer frowned and said, does it seem like they are going to take on us? Interesting. Kid squinted, then ordered to approach the enemy ship at full speed. The 4 ships of the Avengers, and the 2 ships of the Straw Hats, both approached each other at the fastest speed. The time for the war to be detonated can already be counted down in seconds. Rubber. Luffy, who was standing on the bow, had entered second gear and began to swing his arms 360 degrees. Kid on the other side was also standing on the bow of the boat. His eyes narrowed and he drank in a deep voice. Ha! With a low roar, the swords in the hundreds of boxes flew straight into the sky, and under the control of the magnetic force, they were aimed at Luffy one by one. The king's treasure. In an instant, thousands of swords were projected, and the target of the projection was Luffy and the people behind him. Kid's idea is very simple. One-shot covering blows will directly beat you. Armed. Luffy's arms are now covered with armament hockey. Rubber windmill. Immediately, the waving arms turned into 2 huge propellers, the propellers turned, and they were airtight, and they flew the projected swords one by one, and they were tightly guarded. This scene made the Avengers' cadres and minions, including Killer, dumbfounded. They really didn't expect that Kid's attack would be resolved so easily. However, there was no surprised expression on Kid's face, and there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. Since you don't want to give up resistance and die happily, then die in pain while struggling. Ah! Chapter 1120 Desperate Drake. Kid strengthened the magnetic control, and the swords that Luffy had knocked into the air regrouped and shot at a faster speed. If Kid's projection speed just now exceeded Mach 1, his current projection speed has at least doubled. The increase in speed not only brings about an increase in the frequency of attacks, but also increases the kinetic energy attached to the sword after the speed is increased. Luffy is getting harder and harder at the moment, and after a while, his forehead is covered with a large amount of sweat, and his whole body is soaked with sweat. Other hand, Kid is calm, his face does not change his face, and he obviously still has spare energy. Judging from the current competition, Kid should have an advantage in fruit ability and control over fruit, and it can even be said to be in a position of repression. On the other side, Yoroj has already fought Brook, Chopper, Kinemon, Kanjuro. Yoroj is a causal fruit person. If he cannot be defeated in a short period of time, or if his strength is exhausted, he will become stronger and stronger. In the original OP, Yoroj defeated Charlotte Linlin's son Snug, one of the former generals. Now, after being guided by Kid, Yoroj is not only proficient in using Rokushiki Moon Step, Iron Block and Shaving, but also has improved a lot in fighting technique, and his strength has greatly increased. How can this guy be so strong? Brook looked at Yoroj solemnly. To be honest, if he fought alone, he would be killed by Yoroj within a minute. Chopper has eaten 2 blue wave balls at this time, and entered a pseudo-awakened state, so his intelligence is low, and he just wants to beat Yoroj. However, Yoroj was actually strong enough to beat Chopper's attack, and at the same time evade the guerrilla attacks of Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Brook. Do you only have so much ability? If you only have so little strength, let alone challenge Team Zero, even the Avengers, you are not qualified to challenge. Yoroj grinned, although his words were arrogant, but judging from the strength he showed, this was not a joke. Just let me claim your head. While Yoroj was busy talking, Kanjuro pounced from the side. Although Yoroj's observation haki is not very strong, he still senses the small movements of Kanjuro and Kinemon. Kanjuro is in charge of the attraction, and the person who is actually in charge of the attack is Kinemon. Foxfire Stream. An instant, Kinemon saw flames appear on his blade, and he attacked Yoroj with his swordsmanship. Do you want to hurt me with such a small sum? Yoroj snorted disdainfully, then raised his right arm, resisting Chopper's hammer, while holding his oversized pencil in one hand. With a flick of the pencil, a whirlwind was set off in the air, and the pencil swayed away from Kinemon and Kanjuro's attacks. Of how ordinary this move was, the strength contained in the pencil had already made Kinemon and Kanjuro's jaws go numb and cracked a little, which was enough to prove how powerful the blow just now was. Brook saw this, accelerated again, and approached with his sword. How dare you come, this time I'm going to smash you to pieces. Yoroj's words just fell, and another punch from Chopper also fell, causing Yoroj's legs to tremble a little, obviously he couldn't bear the strength. And Brook seized this opportunity and shouted, "Revolutionary dance drum." The crutch sword quickly pierced, and between the electric light and flint, dozens of swords shot towards Yoroj's mouth. Iron Block. Armed. Iron Block and Armament Haki, both have the ability to strengthen their own defense. At this time, the two are superimposed. Although they are not comparable to Andre's Overlord armor, their defense power is quite amazing. Ding 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 ding. Sword chi hit Yoroj's Shangbor, and it just made a crisp metallic sound, and it didn't hurt Yoroj at all. Don't you understand? You and I are not on the same level at all. How could this be? Brook couldn't believe what was in front of him, and for a moment, Yoroj swung the pencil in his hand violently. At this moment, the head of the pencil flew out, clattering, accompanied by the sound of iron chains. Click. Brook's skull frame body is smashed. Although Brook is immortal, the scene of his body being smashed has angered one person. Damn it. Ah. A roar and gunshots echoed in Yoroj's ears. Oh, who else wants to die? Yoroj grinned at this moment, but his smile stopped abruptly because suddenly a figure flew over and slammed into his back. It's Drake. At this time, Drake slipped from Yoroj's back, his body limp. What exactly happened? Yoroj looked at Drake in disbelief, knowing that Drake's power was no longer under him, and he was proficient in fighting techniques, plus he was a zone dinosaur fruit ability. Yoroj dared not say that he would definitely beat him. However, even a strong man like Drake was actually beaten away. Who did it? Yoroj turned his head subconsciously, when he saw Usopp aiming at him with a sniper rifle. I won't forgive you. Usopp has always shown cowardice, fear of death, especially lack of confidence, but Usopp in anger is not ordinary. After Andre, influence and Carlos' training, Usopp's combat power is definitely not weak, but he has always had no confidence in himself, and dared not fight the enemy head-on, and compete with the fighting technique at close range. Because of Brook's incident, Usopp's emotions were completely out of control, and he kicked Drake away with one foot. As we all know, seastone bullets are very difficult to polish, but they are very rare strategic materials. As for the bullets that Carlos gave Usopp, he has always been reluctant to use them. Even if they are used, he will try to recover them, but even if he saves them again, there are only 2 seastone bullets left, including the ones he just used. 2, and only 1 left. I won't let you go. Usopp was murderous at the moment, and the cold light in his eyes showed no falsification. Drake fell to the ground like a muddy mess. He hadn't used his full strength, just because he underestimated Usopp and was kicked by him, causing his body to become unbalanced. Otherwise, he would never have been hit by the seastone bullet. At this moment, Drake weakly reminded Yoroj, "Be careful, this guy has seastone bullets."